Apocalypse. I can steal superpowers. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1. 5 years of expansion and 10 years of working. As the night faded, the interlaced buildings and streets stood in silence. The lights before dawn were slightly dim. People in their dreams were indulging in sleep. No one noticed the silent roar above the zenith. Boom. Like thunder and artillery fire. When the huge sound rang in Gluo's mind, he fluttered and sat up in his deep sleep, frightened. It's coming again. Gluo got out of bed in a panic, not even bothering to put on his shoes, and rushed to the balcony quickly. The dawn was approaching, and the clear and cloudless night sky was like a frozen layer of ice under the snow. Behind this translucent layer, a huge eye across the sky was hanging above the sky, staring at this dimly lit world. Look at you. Come over here, if you have the guts. Gluo pinched his waist with his left hand, and raised a big middle finger to the sky with his right hand. His attitude was fierce but weak. It is hard to imagine how majestic and huge the monster that was blocked outside the sky is. Just one of its eyes has filled up the entire sky that human vision can cover. The pupil, with a diameter of nearly 3 kilometers, is as deep and far-reaching as the deep space, emitting the dazzling light when the stars are extinguished. Of course, the unknown existence outside the sky did not notice Gluo's provocation. It just stared at the sleeping world quietly and silently moved its pupils back. The darkness and fog gradually spread and wrapped, making its grand corner disappear. Then a thunderous sound suddenly hit Gluo's mind. Fuck. Gluo felt like his head was hit hard by a hammer, and he lost all his 5 senses in an instant, and the whole person fell straight to the ground. At this moment, outside the sky like a frozen ice layer, a huge claw had already chiseled into the boundary wall. Although it was not penetrated deeply, there were still several fine cracks spreading in the sky. Gluo lay on the ground, forgetting to breathe. In his sight, the sky was shattered like a glass ceiling, and the barrier separating the two worlds had already revealed a flaw. A few seconds later, as if he was worried about something, the claws of the unknown existence withdrew from the sky, slowly disappeared into the darkness and fog, and never appeared again. And the damage on the sky was also mended and disappeared in an instant, as if everything before had never happened. The sky is about to fall. Who is tall? Come and hold it up. The world is so big, it can't be true that only I can see it. Gluo collapsed on the ground and lay there for nearly an hour until the sky turned white. He got up from the ground and slowly returned to the room. Brush teeth, wash face, breakfast. In the morning light, Gluo sat at the dining table, looking at the steaming porridge in the bowl, with a complicated and scattered mood, just like that morning 10 years ago. At that time, he was only 14 years old. He woke up in a daze early in the morning, and inexplicably found that he had awakened superpowers. Without any sudden enlightenment or transformation, just like breathing, he naturally mastered his innate ability that transcends the mortal world. It has a very simple name, return. When in contact with other evolvers, directly seize their innate abilities and return them after 12 hours. It is very simple and powerful. As long as Gluo's body touches other evolvers, he can choose to obtain the other's superpowers, and the other party will also lose his own abilities for 12 hours. It is conceivable that a teenager in his second year of middle school would be so excited and inflated when he suddenly found that he had awakened such a powerful superpower. From that day on, Gluo, who was still in the second year of middle school, fantasized about his future of killing all directions and being invincible in the world, while starting to look for evolvers like him. After all, if there were no other evolvers, Gluo's superpowers would be the same as having none. It's just a pity that no matter how Gluo searched or tried, he never met even one evolver other than him. Not to mention the strange eyes of the people around him. Later, even Gluo himself wondered if he had developed paranoia. However, no matter how Gluo questioned himself, every night when it was quiet, he could feel that a certain power rooted in his soul was quietly waiting for the day when it would work. But this day never came, and the price Gluo had to pay was paid early. GLUO, who once had excellent grades, completely deviated from his original path because of the awakening of superpowers. He no longer had the heart to study and spent the entire junior high school in a state of floating. In this state, GLUO's academic performance can be imagined. Later, GLUO barely passed the entrance exam to an ordinary high school, spent 3 years skipping classes, and finally failed to get into college, entering society unprepared. In order to fill his stomach, GLUO, who was alone, began to work part-time, handing out flyers, express delivery, food delivery, sales. GLUO tried all kinds of jobs, and changed many citizen jobs. However, there is only one thing that has never changed: these jobs can contact a lot of strangers. GLUO awakened his superpowers at the age of 14, started working at the age of 19, and is now 24 years old, a full 10 years. He has awakened his superpowers for 10 years, but has never used them once. Not even once, and has never activated them. It's been 10 years. If it weren't for this big eye, I would have thought I was a psychopath. GLUO thought about the past, and couldn't help shaking his head. He picked up the white porridge, and ate his breakfast dully. 3 years ago, after 7 years of searching for other evolvers without results, he completely gave up this meaningless delusion, and started his new life. However, not long after that, above the zenith, a huge eye that covered the sky appeared. It lived behind the sky and often stared at the world except GLUO. No one could see the huge eye across the sky, and no one could feel the shock like thunder when it knocked on the world's barrier. Only GLUO, an evolver who had superpowers, but had never activated them once in 10 years, saw all this, and felt all this, but he was powerless to change anything, and no one would believe the crazy talk of a mental patient. The interval time has shortened by another 8 minutes. After finishing his meal, GLUO took out a notebook from the drawer, and began to calculate according to the time marked on it. Carefully calculating, it has been a total of 1,128 days since the pupil outside the sky first appeared, which is a little over 3 years and 1 month. GLUO recorded every time it appeared with precision to the second, and he had already calculated the pattern. The interval between the appearances of the giant pupil is shortening, from once every 2 or 3 months at first, to once a month, and now once every 10 days. The increase in frequency is obvious. Moreover, the duration of its staring has also changed from more than 10 seconds to less than a minute now. The first time it knocked on the sky was about half a year ago. Since then, every time the giant pupil appeared, it was accompanied by a thunderous roar, but only this time, its claws dug into the boundary wall, causing cracks in the thick sky. This world is getting more and more wrong. It's not like the world will be destroyed when I wake up one day. GLUO scratched his hair irritably and carefully put away his notebook. He also wanted to do something to ease this doomsday countdown. But, what can he do? What can he do? He is so poor that he has to worry about even eating meat. How can he save the world? Let it rain, and my mother get married. If I don't find a job quickly, I will be sleeping on the street next month. GLUO is now lying flat and waiting for a call. He turned on his mobile phone and was about to look for nearby jobs, but he didn't expect that a call suddenly came in. Wang Zilin? GLUO didn't expect that this friend who hadn't seen him for a long time would call him today. GLUO could guess some of Wang Zilin's intentions in his heart, and because of this, GLUO hesitated whether to answer his call. But it was obvious that Wang Zilin's persistence exceeded GLUO's hesitation. When the phone rang for the 3rd time, GLUO finally answered the phone. Hello, GLUO? You finally answered the phone. I have a job for you. 10 days, 100,000 yuan. 10 days, 100,000 yuan. Chapter 2, Life Buying Job. In GLUO's heart, Wang Zilin is always a person who can befriend, but not deeply connected. Wang Zilin's family is engaged in logistics and transportation. 4 years ago, GLUO worked in his family for a period of time, and did a pretty good job. The business of running a truck is to travel back and forth from north to south, day and night, and all kinds of accidents and dangers are common. But GLUO had been running transportation for more than half a year at that time, and every time he arrived safely and on time, he never made any mistakes. Later, when Wang Zilin began to get involved in the family business, Gluo became his leader and took him to run for 2 or 3 months. It was during that time that Wang Zilin saw Gluo's extraordinary martial arts value and began to be enthusiastic about him. After that, Gluo refused his request to become a disciple and resigned. But Wang Zilin persevered in keeping in touch with Gluo. Occasionally, when there was a difficult job, he would ask Gluo to be an external aid, and the price was very high. When Gluo couldn't make ends meet, he would go to work part-time. However, Gluo is a man with secrets after all. No matter when and where, he always keeps enough vigilance and distance from people like Wang Zilin who are boastful and showy. Gluo, don't worry, it's not a black job. I just need to deliver a shipment to Zinke Biopharmaceuticals. There are a lot of goods. I don't trust other drivers. I thought of you first. Wang Zilin's voice was eager and excited on the phone. He didn't care about Gluo's silence, but spoke more and more hurriedly. The route is from Changlin City to Shanhai City, a total of more than 1,000 kilometers. As long as you can deliver it within 10 days, I will pay you a penny. Gluo, I know you are short of money recently. As long as you agree to take this trip, I can pay you in advance. Okay. Gluo listened to Wang Zilin's words quietly, hesitated for a long time, and agreed to him. Gluo didn't want to have any contact with Wang Zilin, but he gave too much. Okay. Gluo, I'll send you an address. Take a taxi here quickly. Okay. Gluo rarely speaks in front of people, and Wang Zilin knows his character. After giving him a few instructions, he hung up the phone. In the early morning, Gluo sat on the chair for a while, then stood up and washed the dishes in the sink. With his hands stained with water droplets, he scratched his hair in front of the bathroom mirror. After a long time, he went to the house to change his clothes. Gluo was not a person who cherished his life. He was just used to being cautious. After getting in the taxi, Gluo checked the relevant information of Zinke Biopharmaceuticals, but the results were frowning. Zinke Biopharmaceuticals is a multinational company with a small size on the surface. Because it is not listed, there is very little information disclosed. It can only be vaguely seen that it has invested heavily in scientific research projects and has cooperated with many famous scientific research institutions. What surprised Gluo was that Zinke Biopharmaceuticals actually has its own logistics system, and it is spread all over the country, with very complete sea, land and air lines. So why did it hand over the transportation work to the logistics company? Moreover, the offer was so high. What a hassle. Gluo flipped through the only information he had, thinking about all the possibilities and dangers in his mind, and felt more and more that this job was difficult. The address Wang Zilin gave was a bit remote, and the taxi took nearly an hour to arrive. When Gluo got off the car, Wang Zilin, who had been waiting at the door, came to greet him. Gluo, you are finally here. The meeting is almost over, and you can still listen to the tale. Wang Zilin didn't care about the greetings at this time. He hurriedly took Gluo into the office building. After going up to the 3rd floor, he entered a huge reception room through the side door. On the podium, a man in a suit and leather shoes was talking. Gluo listened to a few words and realized that he was not talking about the arrangement of this logistics work, but about the prospects of future cooperation. Gluo, do you see these people around? There are more than 50 logistics companies in total. Zinke Biopharmaceuticals will choose 34 long-term cooperation. This transportation work is considered to be testing the quality. Wang Zilin spoke in a low voice. He handed the documents on the table to Gluo and motioned him to take a closer look. Gluo originally felt that something was a little strange, and when he saw the content of the document, he frowned even more. Zinke Biopharmaceuticals didn't know what was going on. In this logistics bidding, he selected 30 companies, and the overall route was from Changlin City to Shanhai City, but the routes were divided into 30, and none of them overlapped. What do you mean by this route? Do you think logistics is like running an escort? They also stipulate the time schedule for each route and strictly require everyone to arrive in Shanhai City on the same day. Gluo, keep your voice down. Who wouldn't be surprised? But they said it was a test route and the money was paid, So why are we asking so many questions? By the way, Zinke Biopharmaceuticals said that 2 people will be arranged to follow each car to prevent accidents. Wang Zilin was not a fool and naturally saw the weirdness of this logistics transportation, but Zinke Biopharmaceuticals threw out the bait of long-term cooperation. Who among these people would have trouble with money? They covered it up if they had the intention. GLUO, to be frank, I originally wanted to ask Leoli to come this time, but seeing this situation, how dare I do it? I can only feel relieved. If you come on this trip, will there be a test later? GLUO had already turned to the last page of the document, which specifically mentioned the test items, just as formal as a competition. Well, draw lots, test. I have never seen the bidding of Zinke Biopharmaceuticals. They don't talk about price, but only about speed. They are rich people. Then let's test first. GLUO did not directly tell Wang Zilin whether he would do this job or not. Let's see the situation first. What if he can't even pass the test? What's the point of talking about that? Okay. Wang Zilin smiled and nodded, obviously full of confidence in GLUO. At this time, the man on the podium had finished speaking, waved his hand to make a few arrangements, and several clerks came in and led everyone out to the backfield for testing. GLUO and Wang Zilin followed the crowd out of the office building, and then a tall clerk held a lottery box and asked all logistics drivers to draw numbers and start testing in order. GLUO drew number 35, which was considered very late. Wang Zilin stood side by side with him and watched the test results for a while. His confidence in GLUO was even more overwhelming. GLUO, these people are far worse than you. It's a sure thing. I hope so. I'm going to the toilet. GLUO didn't say too much. He turned around and left the venue, pretending to find a toilet, and walked around nearby. Then he returned to the office building and went to the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor of the office building was very empty. GLUO didn't see many people along the way. He knew the location of the toilet a long time ago, but he still walked around roughly before entering the toilet. This branch has a large venue, but not many people. GLUO's journey was not in vain. He had seen some of the economic strength of Zinke Biopharmaceuticals, but he had some doubts about the staffing of the branch. Not to mention anything else, just saying that many places only have a sign, no people, and the door is not open. This is a big problem. 996 is such a blessing. Today is not the weekend. It is impossible for everyone to take a sick leave. GLUO walked out of the toilet and washed his hands in front of the mirror. At this time, a girl walked out of the women's toilet. She glanced at GLUO, washed her hands casually, and turned into the corridor. GLUO seemed to be immersed in thinking. He did not react to the girl's sight at all. He closed the water door, put some hand sanitizer, and then carefully rinsed off the foam. With his hands dripping, GLUO took a step back, looked sideways at the women's toilet, turned his head, and looked around again, walked to the girl's position, imitated her movements, and repeated the scene just now again. Generally speaking, women will definitely wash their hands after going to the toilet, and they will wash them very seriously. Even if they don't use a hand dryer, they will definitely wipe them clean with paper towels. But she didn't. Normally, as a clerk, all suits are about fit and capable, but the girl's clothes are obviously too big, and she is wearing a pair of light sports shoes. Anyone can feel awkward, but she didn't. Normally, a weak woman would turn her head when looking at others, instead of looking sideways and looking up and down in a very impolite manner. When walking, her posture would be a little more casual, and her overall center of gravity would be a little more backward. But she didn't. These simple details, as long as they are developed into habits, are even subconscious behaviors. But if a person violates even these, it means that she is doing something very important, so much so that she forgets herself. It's troublesome. GLUO paused at the door of the women's toilet and walked in. Most of the cubicle doors were open, and only one was locked. GLUO knocked on the door, but there was no response, but vaguely, he could hear people breathing. It's good that they are not dead. GLUO had no interest in pushing open the cubicle. He walked out of the toilet and began to follow the traces of water droplets on the ground. It was empty and quiet. If GLUO had met one or two civilian staff just now, then now, GLUO could no longer see anyone in the corridor. Whenever I think of you, I will regret that we have been apart for so long. Burn the ashes and bury the smoke and willows in a trance. The music ringtone of the mobile phone came from the side. No one answered the phone for a long time, and the singing continued. GLUO walked lightly to the door, where the music came from. He pushed the door gently, and the door opened. Inside the room, 2 male employees fell to the ground. They were still breathing, but they had fainted. GLUO walked in from the door, observing the neat scene, deduced the situation in his mind, and couldn't help but exclaimed in admiration. This method is really straightforward. There was no hesitation. The man pushed the door and walked into the room, walking straight forward. The first male employee stood up to greet him. When he was about half a meter away from the man, he was directly cut on the side of the neck by a hand knife and fell down without any warning. Then, the man walked without stopping, and before the second male employee could respond effectively, he walked up to him, grabbed his neck, and after forcing out the information he wanted, he hit the back of the male employee's head and threw him under the table. From the moment he entered the room, he almost kept walking and completed his goal within half a minute. His judgment ability is amazing. Really? Thank you for the compliment. At that moment, a cold voice floated in. The pleasant ringing stopped abruptly, and the footsteps of the figure outside the door stopped there. Chapter 3, Death Returns. GLUO felt that his perception ability was far superior to that of ordinary people, but from beginning to end, he did not notice anyone approaching. When the voice behind him sounded, GLUO was instantly startled, and his hair stood up. He turned around suddenly, and his muscles were as tight as bowstrings. Outside the door, the girl who had met GLUO once was standing there calmly. She tilted her head slightly and looked at GLUO with no emotion in her pupils. The girl looked about 18 or 19 years old. Because of her thick makeup, her true appearance could not be seen, but her exquisite facial features could not be concealed, especially her deep and calm eyes, which were unforgettable at first sight. Did you find out? The girl's voice was very cold, and there was no twists and turns in her tone. It was obviously a question, but she said it like a statement. Well, go knock on the door. GLUO naturally understood what the girl was asking. He nodded, and his guarded posture did not relax at all. What's the floor? The shoes. That's right, but I'm not used to wearing high heels. The girl nodded seriously. Facing GLUO's alert posture, she curled her lips without comment, her tone still indifferent. There are 30 transportation routes. Do you know which one Sister Yingluo is on? I don't know. GLUO didn't expect the girl to change the topic so abruptly. He just gave an answer reflexively, but as soon as he said it, GLUO regretted it. There is something wrong with his answer. If he didn't know anything, how could he answer that he didn't know? So, you are also one of them? A newcomer? Your nerves are too tense, and it's easy for them to test your true and false. The girl lowered her eyelid slightly, and pulled out a half-arm long dagger from her waist with her right hand. There was fresh blood on the dagger, which did not dry, but did not flow. No, I think you misunderstood. I'm a logistics driver, and have nothing to do with all this. GLUO probably felt that all the conversations between the girl and him were actually tests. Her every move, every word, and every expression were intimidation and inducement, just to get as much information as possible from him. Really, at this time, the girl's face had an expression for the first time. Her eyes were slightly tilted, and the smile on her face had an inexplicable playfulness. Danger. Suddenly, GLUO felt the breath of death. He stepped back without hesitation, grabbed the chair on the side with his right hand, and smashed it forward. Whoosh. Between millimeters, a knife light that could not be seen by the naked eye fell in front of GLUO. Then, the blade suddenly turned over at the bottom, lifted up in a V shape, and directly split the chair that GLUO smashed in half. Really, an amazing reaction speed. The girl held a short knife in her hand, her eyes swept across the wreckage of the chair on the ground, and then her cold eyes stared at GLUO, and a fierce murderous intent began to spread in it. You are an evolver. GLUO looked at the girl's sharp blade that surpassed ordinary people and felt his head buzzing. All kinds of complicated thoughts and sufferings surged into his heart. Full of unreal feelings, Gluo himself could hardly believe that there would be such a day when he could meet the second evolver besides himself. He evolver, of course. The girl's voice suddenly became hoarse, as if there were too many emotions stuck in her heart, and she couldn't say anything, and could only be like a beast with fangs and blood. Sure enough, you are one of them. What is your mission? Protect that manager Duan? Arrange the secret transportation of Sister Yingluo? Or, are you here to arrest me? I'm not. I didn't. Gluo knew that the girl in front of him had completely misunderstood, and he wanted to explain everything clearly, but at this moment, Gluo looked at the girl's beast-like eyes, and he understood that the misunderstanding and prejudice had been determined, and no matter how he explained, it was useless. It is hard to imagine what kind of hatred, what kind of pain, what kind of resentment can make a girl show an expression that she wants to eat flesh and blood. Now, she just wanted to kill him, and she would never regret it even if she died. My name is Gluo. What's your name? Gluo gave up the pale and useless explanation. He held the coat rack on the side and made a desperate gesture, but in fact, Gluo began to plan his escape. Fighting and killing are two completely different concepts. The knife of the girl just now has made Gluo clearly realize the gap between the two. Unless he succeeds in escaping, he will die. Sukinghan. The girl whispered her name, and at that moment, Gluo swung the coat rack in his hand and smashed it at the girl like a Zen stick. Ding. The silver white dagger in the girl's hand was like her extended arm. Every knife mark was like a silver white silk thread. The stone chassis of the coat rack was instantly cut in half. Then the girl moved her body like a cannonball out of a gun, and the whole person directly crashed into Gluo. From the beginning to the end, Gluo was not prepared to fight the girl to the death. He threw the broken coat rack and directly overturned the two tables beside him. Books, pen holders, calendars all fell down at once, and the scattered debris made the scene chaotic. Gluo ran to the window without looking back, ready to smash the glass directly and escape from the third floor. Too obvious. Sukinghan had experienced too many battles and fights. She saw Gluo's plan at a glance and had already made preparations. So, at that moment, the girl jumped up on the suspended edge of the table, and the flying dagger passed through the paper pages and pen holders, from back to front, and pierced Gluo's calf sharply. Ah! Gluo had never felt such pain before. He limped and fell to the ground. Before he could struggle to get up, the figure behind him rushed over with the wind. Gluo gritted his teeth and slammed his left elbow into the girl's face, but was stopped by Sukinghan with both hands, and took advantage of the situation to pinch Gluo's elbow and wrist. At this moment, Gluo and Sukinghan's bodies came into contact. At that moment, Gluo, who was in confusion and pain, suddenly felt a certain throbbing in his soul. He clearly felt that something was entering his body from Sukinghan's body along the place where the two of them touched. So, the innate ability called Return was transformed into Death Return. Death Return, automatically activated after death. The soul is traced back to the time of the beacon. This is after Gluo seized Sukinghan's innate ability. He was like awakening his own superpowers and instantly understood everything about this innate ability. Because of this, Gluo's eyes looking at Sukinghan completely changed. However, Sukinghan did not notice all this. She twisted Gluo's elbow and wrist suddenly, and directly made Gluo's left arm twisted, completely losing the ability to move. Fuck you. Gluo was in so much pain that tears came out, but Sukinghan mercilessly grabbed Gluo's right arm again, and removed his shoulder joint with a click. At this point, Gluo's arms were completely disabled, and his left leg was pierced by a knife, bleeding profusely. Gluo, tell me everything you know, and I can let you go. Sukinghan calmly pulled out the dagger from Gluo's calf. She casually shook off the blood, and she was so familiar with it that she even had a sense of beauty. Sukinghan, whether you believe it or not, I'm really not a member of any organization. I have lived alone for 10 years, and no one has ever helped me. Gluo's cheeks were trembling with pain, but he didn't care about insulting and venting, because Gluo knew that the most important thing at the moment was to get as much information as possible from Sukinghan, and to know how to make friends with her. In short, just like Sukinghan did before, GLUO now must abandon his emotions and try his best to understand the truth. Because death is no longer the end, but a new beginning. Sukinghan looked at GLUO's angry expression and slowly frowned. She put the dagger to her side and took out all the things on GLUO's body. Cell phone, keys, banknotes. Sukinghan checked carefully and found nothing hidden. She pursed her lips and looked terribly serious. All the passwords on the cell phone are 541,111. You can look at them casually. GLUO sighed and lay on the ground with his head raised. He was now disabled with 3 of his 5 limbs and in great pain, but fortunately, he would not die for a while. Sukinghan didn't waste any words. She carefully checked everything in GLUO's cell phone, including all the software and information. As a result, it was obvious that GLUO lived an ordinary life after all. The records on various software clearly showed his situation in recent months and even recent years, without any abnormality. Now, do you believe it? I'm not your enemy. Can we have a good talk? GLUO looked at Sukinghan's emotionally shaken pupils, not knowing whether to hate her, blame her, or pity her. This girl, who looked only 18 years old, had experienced countless deaths and spent much time beyond her years. The hatred and pain accumulated during this period had made her lose herself. I can't confirm. Sukinghan shook her head stubbornly, refusing to reveal any information to GLUO. She had experienced too many conspiracies and betrayals, and her hands were already stained with blood. She was righteous, evil, unforgivable, and desperate. I can't trust you, so I have to kill you. But, I promise, next time, I will make sure who you are, whether you need to be killed. The girl was holding all her emotions, her palms trembling slightly. She picked up the short knife beside her, clenched it tightly, and then the girl's hands stopped shaking. You can scold me, you can hate me, I accept it. Okay, I understand. GLUO understood what Sukinghan meant, so he was very calm, even if he sighed a little, but GLUO could accept it calmly. This kind of thing, this kind of situation, she must have encountered many times. Although it is not in line with common sense, this must be the rule she set after thousands of entanglements and regrets. No matter right or wrong, no more words, no mercy. If she made a mistake, she would end her life, and with scarred memories, she would save everything again. As for the past, that only existed in her memory, it had nothing to do with love or hate, but was just a deep understanding and heaviness that she had to bear. Thank you. Sukinghan looked at GLUO's calm pupils, guarding her heart, not letting the fragile emotions burst. She raised the blade and swung it down resolutely, so sharp that it seemed to leave scars in GLUO's eyes. Goodbye. Chapter 4. Restart. November 20th, 3005, 6 o'clock. Time marker 010,001. First retrospection. GLUO. Boom. Like thunder and artillery fire, when the huge sound rang in his head again, GLUO, who was sleeping soundly, fluttered and sat up, like a dead person coming back to life. Back. Really back. GLUO pinched his left arm in panic, and patted his left leg. After confirming that he was fine, he breathed a long sigh of relief. It's so exciting. This was the first time GLUO died in his life. Although the experience was a bit painful, it felt quite wonderful when he thought about it carefully. Death returns. GLUO looked up at the time, got out of bed in his slippers, and walked to the balcony. Dawn is approaching, the night is deep, the sky is vast and pure like a crystal barrier. On the other side, a huge pupil that covers the sky full of stars, spans the limit of vision, fills all the sight. It stares at this sleeping world. The pupil color is like the sea of stars, vast and cold. Big eyeball, is there really no one who can see you except me? If no one, why me? If there are others, what are they doing? After 10 years of expectation and search, GLUO finally met an evolver other than himself, and successfully used his innate ability. This consummation after a long pursuit changed GLUO's mentality. For the first time, GLUO finally had the leisure to look at the huge pupil in the sky with appreciation. This look of the Milky Way in the pupil is so beautiful. Big eyeball, your eyes are so beautiful, don't think they are so beautiful. GLUO put his hands on the railing and slowly exerted his strength. In his sight, the giant pupil outside the sky was moving back, and the darkness and fog gradually spread and wrapped, making its grand corner disappear. Come on. GLUO closed his eyes and clenched his teeth hard. After a short wait, the thunderous sound hit GLUO's mind like a hammer. Humph. Although GLUO was ready, he still stumbled, but this time, GLUO did not fall to the ground. Young man, you don't have martial ethics. GLUO coughed a few times and couldn't help grinning. He looked up and watched the claws of the unknown existence withdraw from the sky and slowly disappear into the darkness and fog. In the watery night, the damage on the sky gradually healed and disappeared. GLUO silently watched this silent scene, solemn and heavy. I'm only 1.78 meters tall. I can't be the tallest. GLUO turned and walked back into the house and closed the door tightly. For some reason, after his mood calmed down, GLUO suddenly thought of Sukinghan in his mind. To be honest, the knife that the girl stabbed into his heart at the end was too accurate and neat. That knife can be described as stunning and brilliant. For GLUO, the victim, it was a kind of tenderness. And Sukinghan, after stabbing that knife, has been looking at GLUO and never looked away, as if paying tribute, as if mourning. At that time, the girl's eyes were shining, and she looked like she was about to cry, but she refused to do so. She just pursed her lips stubbornly without even saying an apology. And this is actually the biggest blame and guilt. You are only in the second and third year of high school, and you are still a child for not letting me go. Although GLUO died at the hands of Sukinghan, he did not hate her. It was just that how to contact her next, GLUO needed to consider carefully. If it was the second dimension, then the three views must follow the five senses, but in the real world, a beautiful girl who is trapped in hatred and madness, and will kill you with her own hands, must be treated with caution. What's more, GLUO didn't know much information now. Sukinghan, about 18 or 19 years old, has the innate ability of death return, uses a short knife as a weapon, has strong melee ability, and is good at fighting and killing. She would enter the office building of Zinke Biopharmaceutical branch at around 10 o'clock in the morning, then knock out a civilian in the toilet, change into her clothes, and then clear the entire third floor all the way, sneaking in perfectly. Others. GLUO sat on the chair, carefully recalling every detail of his encounter with Sukinghan, and sorted out every useful information. First of all, because of her innate ability, Sukinghan took her life lightly. Under any circumstances, she would not simply end it, but constantly tested, coerced, and induced with actions, words, and expressions, and tried to get all kinds of information as much as possible. From this point of view, Sukinghan is a type who can talk well, but she is too wary and indifferent to people, and her mouth may not work. As for Sukinghan's purpose, GLUO vaguely guessed it. After all, her first substantial test of GLUO was to ask, 30 transportation routes, do you know which one Sister Yingluo is on? Reverse and assume that Sukinghan has a grudge against Zinke Biopharmaceuticals, and the node is this Sister Yingluo. Now, Sister Yingluo is in the hands of Zinke Biopharmaceuticals, and their logistics bidding from Changlin City to Shanhai City this time is to transport this person. Following this line of thought, the reason why Zinke Biopharmaceuticals had to find 30 logistics companies and take 30 completely different routes was obviously to prevent Sukinghan from robbing the escort. There is no doubt that Zinke Biopharmaceuticals also knows Sukinghan very well. They have obviously noticed the drawbacks and weaknesses of death return. This world always follows energy conversion and equivalent exchange. Although death return has the ability of souls to travel through time, its cost should never be underestimated. If Sukinghan continues to death return after 20 or 30 times of backtracking, it is unknown whether the person can be rescued, but her soul will definitely collapse first. What's more, the archive of death return, that is, Time Beacon, has rules and restrictions. Therefore, if Sukinghan takes 30 transportation routes without any intersection, it is impossible for her to confirm the authenticity by death return. If she wants to save people, she can only take other routes. After Sukinghan found out that I was an evolver, he said, sure enough, you are one of them. What is your mission? Protect that manager Duan? Arrange the secret transportation of Sister Yingluo? Or, are you here to arrest me? From this it can be seen that protecting Manager Duan, arranging the transportation of Sister Yingluo, and arresting Su Qinghan, these three possible missions are the assumptions made by Su Qinghan, based on his understanding of his opponent. They may not be right, but there are definitely enough reasons. Chapter 5, Judgment. Manager Duan, is he the man who was speaking on the stage? Jieluo listened to the end of a meeting and naturally remembered the branch manager who coordinated everything. Su Qinghan sneaked in to find him. However, it was obvious that she did not get the information she wanted. This was normal in Jieluo's opinion. In a way, since Zinke Biopharmaceuticals did not send anyone to protect Manager Duan, this person was actually worthless and was just a tool. There was even a hypothesis, that is, no one knew which car Sister Yingluo was in. It was all random and luck, and Su Qinghan could not find it. But this was pure luck. If Su Qinghan's Sister Yingluo was extremely important, this method would never be used. Alas, there is still too little known information. Jieluo racked his brains and could only think of these things. There was no way. He and Su Qinghan had only met for a few minutes in total, and the chats added up to less than the words of an essay. The information was limited after all. It seems that no matter what, I have to contact Su Qinghan again. Jieluo reached out and touched his heart, still frightened by Su Qinghan's blade. To be honest, Jieluo didn't want to experience death again. However, when he really needed to die, Jieluo would not escape. After all, as long as he came into contact with Su Qinghan, Jieluo could rely on return to seize her, death return, and start over again. By the way, when I seized Su Qinghan's death return, she didn't show any abnormality. In other words, she didn't even realize that her innate ability was gone. If so, wouldn't the other party not use the innate ability and not know that it had been taken away by me? Jieluo himself was also surprised by this point. This is making a fortune in silence. If it works well, someone loses his innate ability and doesn't know what happened and who took it away. This, I have to study it carefully in the future. Jieluo's mentality is really different now. After 10 years of hard pursuit, he finally met a similar person. As long as he keeps an eye on her, why worry about not meeting other evolvers? As for return after death, Jieluo leaned his head back on the chair, thinking about the special features of this innate ability. First of all, the activation condition of return after death is death, which is a passive ability. The effect is to trace the soul back to the time of the beacon, act on the soul, and judge it as time, which will not have any effect on the physical state. After Jieluo took away Su Qinghan's innate ability, it is certain that she can't perform return after death. But after Jieluo completed the return after death, his soul returned to 6 o'clock in the morning. The innate ability is return, not return after death. So, can the disappeared return after death ability return to Su Qinghan? In other words, even if return after death can return to Su Qinghan, will it return after 12 hours, or will it return directly at the moment of Jieluo's death? Return. There is no return date. This point must be confirmed. Jieluo dare not be careless about things like this that are related to his life and property. No matter what, this must be measured. After all, this is too important. If Jieluo seizes Su Qinghan's death return and then activates it, death return will no longer return to Su Qinghan, then she will completely lose the ability to travel through time. Jieluo can solve everything perfectly as long as he acts according to the information he got before his death. But if death return returns to Su Qinghan after Jieluo's death, then Su Qinghan can also use death return to counter Jieluo's arrangement. If the two of them are doing this endlessly, there will be no peace. Why should I return something I took with my ability? I'm dead. How can I return? Jieluo earnestly hopes that his innate ability can be as shameless as himself. Otherwise it will not be him who arranges Su Qinghan, but Su Qinghan who arranges him secretly. However, this is not difficult to predict. As long as Su Qinghan's trajectory deviates from the information Jieluo knows, it means that she successfully performed death return after Jieluo's death. On the contrary, it proves that Jieluo is the Matryoshka Terminator. As long as he takes away Su Qinghan's death return, every time he meets her, and then comes back to life within 12 hours, Sukinghan will never recognize him. Sukinghan, who has death return, must have gotten used to being in the dark and knowing all kinds of information. She never thought that in a place she couldn't see, a pervert was staring at her all the time. Slap, this is too fast. No. This is too perverted. Gluo's mind was a little self-free for a while, but he quickly gathered his mind. Gluo also knew that, although he could play the role of an omniscient person by taking away Sukinghan's death return, this situation was actually fragile and dangerous. After all, death return was Sukinghan's own innate ability. As long as she discovered Gluo's existence and successfully activated death return, everything would be over. Sukinghan gave people the feeling of a lone wolf. Not only was his force value high, but he also lacked a sense of security. Once the two are hostile, unless Gluo takes the initiative and kills Sukinghan within 12 hours after seizing her death return, Gluo will never have peace. So, for Sukinghan, I have to get to know her first, see what her character, personality, and values are like, and see if we can be friends. If possible, try to be friends, and it would be best to become allies. There is no way. The ability of death return is too buggy, and there are very few countermeasures. Even if you catch someone, you can't kill him, you can only lock him up until he dies. Speaking of which, Sukinghan has death return, and she can't do anything to Zinke Biopharmaceuticals. Doesn't that mean it's even more powerful? Suddenly, Gluo felt that he, a blind student, had discovered a brilliance. It would be better if he didn't think about it. The more Gluo thought about it, the more he felt something was wrong. Think about Sukinghan. She has death return, and her soul can go back in time, but she was suppressed by Zinke Biopharmaceuticals. If he, a little idiot, gets involved rashly, he might be wiped out. No. We must be careful and not act rashly. Contact Sukinghan first and find out the situation. It's best to be a third-party bystander and hide in the dark. Gluo resolutely set his own principles of action. He must leave room for contact with Sukinghan. At least before he can protect himself, he can't be exposed. He must take it slowly. Well, Wang Zilin's call will come in 2 hours. No matter what the result is, it's time to prepare. At this time, Gluo already had a rough plan in his mind. He quickly finished his breakfast, changed into a light-colored casual outfit, put on a hood and a mask, and carried a shabby travel bag. Like a lonely traveler, he disappeared in the morning light. Chapter 6, The Other Side of Ignition. 8:46 on November 20th, 3005. Hello, Gluo? You finally answered the phone. I have a job. Please come. 10 days, 100,000 yuan. In the corridor, Wang Zilin wanted to suppress his excitement, but facing Gluo on the other end of the phone, he couldn't help but get excited. Gluo, don't worry, it's not a black job, just a delivery of goods to Zinke Biopharmaceuticals. Okay, you agree. Good. Now I'll send you the address. You hurry up and take a taxi. After getting Gluo's affirmative answer, Wang Zilin couldn't help but waved excitedly. After hanging up the phone, he sent the address to Gluo, and he was already looking forward to the scene of reaching a long-term cooperation with Zinke Biopharmaceuticals in the future. It's done. Gluo, come over. It's a sure thing. Wang Zilin hummed an unknown song, quietly walked into the reception room from the side door, and sat back in his seat. After having the confidence, Wang Zilin felt inexplicably irritated when listening to Manager Duan's speech on the stage. He couldn't help looking to the left, and he kept looking at the girl sitting next to him. She was a girl with a cold temperament. I don't know which logistics company she was from. Everyone was contacting drivers to come to participate in the test, but she was the only one who was still listening to the nonsense on the stage and taking notes seriously. The girl looked about 18 or 19 years old. Because of the thick makeup, her real appearance could not be seen, but the exquisiteness of her facial features could not be concealed, especially the pair of deep and calm eyes, which were unforgettable at first sight. To be honest, Wang Zilin didn't like young girls very much, because they were too childish, and didn't have the maturity and intelligence of women at all. However, From this girl, Wang Zilin felt a very wonderful temperament. Broadly speaking, it was probably the feeling of being independent from the world. And this feeling, Wang Zilin had only seen in GLUO for so many years. Beautiful lady, may I ask what's your last name? The girl obviously didn't expect Wang Zilin to talk to her. She turned her head and looked at Wang Zilin, frowning slightly, but still gave an answer. My last name is Su. Miss Su, nice to meet you, Wang Zilin. Wang Zilin stretched out his right hand, wanting to shake hands with her, but the girl didn't mean to stretch out her hand at all, just nodded slightly. Su Qinghan. The girl whispered her name, her eyes staring into Wang Zilin's eyes, as if she wanted to see something, but Wang Zilin was quite open-minded, and didn't avoid her gaze. Su Qinghan, don't remember it. What Manager Duan said is useless. We are in logistics, and everyone will have some accidents on the road. If there is a little delay, the schedule will be out of sync. You mean, 30 transportation routes can't all arrive on time? Su Qinghan put down the pen, and suddenly became interested in Wang Zilin's words. When Wang Zilin saw the girl turned her head, he immediately became energetic, and began to show off. Let's be honest. Zinke Biopharmaceuticals has 30 routes from Changlin City to Shanghai City, some long and some short. The short ones have plenty of time, so there will be no problem, but the long ones, 10 days, are too tight. If it weren't for the money, no one would dare to take this porcelain job. So, which ones will miss the scheduled time? How long will it be late? Su Qinghan took the information sent by Zinke Company, turned to the page of route description, and motioned Wang Zilin to give her some advice. I dare not say anything else. Here, the 5 routes on the mountain road are dangerous. My driver is definitely one of the best among all people, but I dare not let him run on the 5 most dangerous routes. Wang Zilin made a virtual gesture with his finger, indicating that he was not pointing at anyone, but that everyone present was rubbish. If he didn't dare to take the job, these people would not be able to do it, even if they took it. As for how late it is, I estimate that it has been at least 5 days. 5 days? Su Qinghan was a little surprised by Wang Zilin's answer. While thinking, the girl licked her lips unconsciously, but she didn't know that this action was seen by Wang Zilin, and this LSP was directly amazed. Su Qinghan, it seems that you are still a newcomer. So, remember my phone number, and if you have any questions in the future, just come to me directly. Wang Zilin's attitude was so generous that he wanted to sell himself out. Su Qinghan turned his head to look at him, nodded slightly, and exchanged numbers with him. Mr. Wang, in your opinion, how will the 30 routes of Zinke Company be designed? No need to call me Mr. Wang, just call me Wang Zilin. Although Zinke didn't specify the routes in detail, but according to my experience, 18 of them are very easy to guess. Facing the girl's puzzled eyes, Wang Zilin was so excited that his hands trembled a little. He lowered his voice and began to give instructions to Su Qinghan, and the girl listened very seriously and asked some questions from time to time. Wang Zilin talked to Su Qinghan for more than an hour, until his mouth was dry. The girl was very considerate and gave him the water she brought. Wang Zilin drank it all without hesitation. After drinking it, it was a pity that the water was unopened. Logically speaking, Wang Zilin told Su Qinghan so many industry secrets, and some of the information even damaged the interests of his company. Su Qinghan must treat Wang Zilin to dinner later. Unfortunately, Su Qinghan had an important reservation. After chatting with Wang Zilin, she didn't even finish listening to Manager Duan's speech, and left in a hurry halfway. Fortunately, you left your phone number. Wang Zilin looked at Su Qinghan's back as he left, and couldn't help but praise his own wit in his heart. At the same time, he also made up his mind that he must do a good job in this transportation work, and must cooperate with Zinke Biopharmaceuticals for a long time. At that time, he would ask Su Qinghan out, and poach her to his company to be his secretary. With something in his mind, Wang Zilin could no longer sit still. He got up, and left his seat, and walked out of the living room through the side door. GLUO was coming soon, so he didn't have time to listen to Manager Duan's nonsense. The key was to get his hero as soon as possible. However, what Wang Zilin didn't realize was that at this time, Su Qinghan, who had left for something, was standing at the side corner of the corridor, monitoring all the doors of the reception room. Wang Zilin's movements were always under her control. This Wang Zilin is unlikely, but in the shadows on the side of the building, Su Qinghan watched Wang Zilin greet the driver he was waiting for. He was a young man whose age was difficult to judge. He had a handsome and resolute appearance. He seemed to have the stubbornness of 18 or 19 years old, and the peace of 24 or 25 years old. He was a little alienated by Wang Zilin's attitude, but Wang Zilin led him the way very enthusiastically. Really, they don't look like a boss and a driver. Su Qinghan's cardamom-like fingertips tapped on the phone and silently took a picture of the distant scene. The girl's emotionless pupils looked particularly creepy. There will be time to verify these things later. Now, there are more important things to do. Chapter 7. Furious. The office building of Zinke Biopharmaceutical branch has 6 floors in total. The main office area is on the 2nd floor, the manager's office is on the 3rd floor, and the monitoring room, which is usually located on the 1st floor, is arranged on the 4th floor. In the empty corridor, Su Qinghan walked very slowly. The entire 4th floor was terrifyingly large, but there was no figure in sight, not even the person who Su Qinghan imagined to stop her. It was as if there was no living person. Something is wrong. Su Qinghan stopped at the corner of a corridor. She stood in front of the camera and waited quietly for 2 minutes, but no one showed up. Trap? Su Qinghan had experienced this kind of scene before, but Tang Xiujian wanted to catch her in such a small place by setting such a simple trap. That was really contemptuous of her. Let them do it. Su Qinghan drew a short knife from her bag and walked through the corridor leisurely. There was no need to look for it. The location of the monitoring room was already in her mind. Click. The door of the monitoring room was not locked. Su Qinghan walked into the room with a vigilant look, carefully observing every detail in the room. The information she finally obtained made her frown. Someone was here, not long ago, 2 hours at most. There were 4 security guards in the monitoring room, and he stood there. He attacked without any warning, and the 4 people didn't resist and all fell to the ground. Su Qinghan could completely imagine the man's method. He must have gone up to the 4th floor first, pretended to be lost, and was seen by the security guards in the monitoring room. Then the security guards stopped him, and after a few questions, they found out the clue, and took him into the monitoring room. There is no need to say anything about everything that happened afterwards. With the absolute difference in physical ability, even if the 4 security guards were all retired soldiers, the result was just a crushing defeat. Whose side is this evolver from? Su Qinghan felt that things were somewhat out of her control. This person who suddenly appeared had disrupted her plan. The third-party force that was unknown, whether it was an enemy or a friend, had intervened, making everything confusing. Why does he need to check the surveillance? Su Qinghan checked the surveillance himself to see if there were any valuable targets among the people who came in the past few days. But what can a third party see when watching the video? Strange. He took the computer hard drive, but why did he also take away all the graphics cards and CPUs of the computers? What did he do with it? To upgrade the configuration of his own computer? Su Qinghan was completely convinced. At the moment, not only were all the computers in the monitoring room scrapped, but there was not even a single paper document left. It was obvious that they had been plundered by the previous visitor. It actually went to this extent. Could it be? Su Qinghan suddenly thought of something, and the girl was shocked. She no longer cared about looking for clues, and decisively left the monitoring room and ran towards the stairs. In the original plan, Su Qinghan wanted to check the surveillance first, then go to the data room to check, and finally knock out a clerk, change her clothes, and enter the manager's office without alerting too many people, and force the real information from the manager named Duan Mingyang. However, at the moment, when it was confirmed that a third party had intervened, Su Qinghan realized the other party's huge plot. Zinke Biopharmaceutical branch. The most valuable information was concentrated in 3 points: the monitoring room, the data room, and Duan Mingyang. And among the 3, Duan Mingyang was undoubtedly the most important. Arsehole. Su Qinghan ran down the stairs anxiously, but as soon as she stepped into the 3rd floor, she noticed the weird atmosphere. Empty and silent. If Su Qinghan could have met 1 or 2 civilian staff along the way just now. Su Qinghan could not see anyone in the corridor. When I think of you, I will regret that we parted for a long time. Will burn the ashes and bury the smoke and willows in a trance. The music ringtone of the mobile phone came from the side, and no one answered the phone for a long time, and the singing continued. Soo-Kyung-hun clenched the dagger in his sleeve, walked to the door where the music came from, and pushed it gently, and the door opened. Inside the room, 2 male employees fell to the ground, still breathing, but had fainted. The technique is a little unfamiliar, but the man is ruthless. Soo-Kyung-hun walked around the scene and easily recalled the scene at that time. The man pushed the door, and walked into the room, and walked straight forward. The first male employee stood up to greet him. When he was about half a meter away from the man, he was directly cut on the side of his neck by a knife, and fell straight down. Then, the man kept walking. When the second male employee just shouted, he grabbed his throat, hit the back of his head, and threw him under the table. From the moment he entered the room, he kept walking, knocked 2 people unconscious, didn't turn over anything, and left directly. Soo-Kyung-hun could almost conclude that Do Min-gyang was dead now. This unknown evolver knocked these people unconscious just to clear the scene, or to show off. He was doing it for Zinke Biopharmaceuticals to see. No matter who you are, you don't need to sneak in or disguise yourself. You can just crush them openly. Tang Zhujian seems to have offended someone again. After Soo-Kyung-hun understood the situation, she did not stay any longer. Do Min-gyang's manager's office was just a few meters away. Soo-Kyung-hun pushed the door and walked in. Sure enough, there was no one there. But unlike before, this room had obviously been searched by someone. It was estimated that it would be difficult to find anything valuable in the mess. So, am I among your targets? Soo-Kyung-hun did not choose to turn around and leave. Instead, she closed the door and sat down at the desk with a slash. In silence, the girl stared at the phone in front of her, and the tip of the knife tapped lightly on the table. And the incident did not disappoint Soo-Kyung-hun. Less than half a minute after she sat down, the phone rang. I'm Soo-Kyung-hun, who are you? The girl's voice was usually as cold as her name, but at this time, she spoke with murderous momentum, and her tone was icy cold. I'm sorry, Miss Soo-Kyung-hun, you made a wasted trip. Do Min-gyang is in my hands. If you want to discuss in detail, come to the unfinished building in the north to talk, okay? Soo-Kyung-hun only gave the other party a one-word answer, and then hung up the phone without waiting for him to say anything else. Let's talk. Soo-Kyung-hun pulled out the dagger from the table. The girl's eyes reflected on the frosty blade were as calm as a deep pool. Soo-Kyung-hun put the dagger back behind her back, turned and walked to the bay window, kicked the glass in front of her and broke it, and then jumped down. Who would talk to you if it's not a beheading deal? Soo-Kyung-hun stepped forward indifferently, took out a car key from her pocket, and gently pressed the car lock button. At that moment, the quiet scenery seemed to hold its breath, stagnated for a short moment, and then the burst of flames shot up into the sky, accompanied by tremors and roars all the way. The solid ground cracked layer by layer, the glass between the buildings fell like waterfalls, the broken wires danced wildly in the wind, pulling out dense sparks, and the terrified crowd began to flee in all directions, as if the doomsday and catastrophe were just around the corner. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8, To the Madman. Do Min-gyang, does your chairman know what kind of monster he created? On the top floor of the suspended building, Gluo stood quietly. The mannequin blew his clothes, but Gluo stood firmly on the edge of the building, as if he had taken root. At this moment, he looked into the distance, and the distorted reflection of the flame kept jumping in his pupils. To the south, the branch of Zinke Biopharmaceuticals was torn apart in flames and roars. The surging flames destroyed the building like a tide, and the ground bulged in the deafening roar. The soil and grass flew into the sky like a fountain, and grey smoke filled the ruins. Everything was dying. Mr. Do Min-gyang, tell me, does he know? Gluo turned his head and looked at Do Min-gyang beside him. The general manager, who was extremely strict in front of his subordinates, was so scared that his whole body was trembling and his tongue couldn't be straightened. I don't know. I really don't know. I've told you everything I know. Duan Mingyang was really afraid of death. He didn't want to die. Originally he hated this person for kidnapping him, but now it seems that if this person hadn't brought him here, he would have died in the explosion. How many people are there in your branch? How many people came from more than 50 express delivery companies? Luo took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. He didn't need to look to know that Wang Zilin was dead, and all the people from Zinke Company and Express Delivery Company were dead. Our branch, more than 110 people, Express Delivery Companies, a total of almost 130 people. Although Duan Mingyang was trembling when he spoke, he also saw that it was not this young man who caused the explosion, but the girl he had just monitored in the video. More than 240 people. Luo really didn't know whether this explosion was part of Su Qinghen's plan or a backup plan she left behind. If it was the former, if Luo hadn't met Su Qinghen, he would have been dead. And if it was the latter, if he didn't intervene, Su Qinghen would not have detonated the bomb, and these people would not have died. To be honest, although Luo and Su Qinghen didn't have much contact, he felt from the bottom of his heart that the girl was not a bloodthirsty person. At the moment, she used her backhand to blow up the entire Zinke branch into ruins, and more than 200 lives disappeared. What she wanted was probably just to be strong and unscrupulous enough to Luo, the third party. Perhaps, after confirming Luo's true identity, she would commit suicide, turn it all around, and lead the future to a morning that did not require such determination. But even so, is this right? It is hard to imagine what kind of crazy person would do such atrocities. Even if Su Qinghen could return from death, these dead people would die, and the sins she carried would not be reduced in the slightest, even if only she knew it. In this way, isn't she in pain? Like a monster. Luo was very angry and wanted to kill someone, but he clenched his fists, but he didn't know who to kill. Is it right? Su Qinghen, an 18-year-old girl, single-handedly fought against the powerful Chibal group and had experienced countless death returns. Her eyes looked like she was dead. If you don't really like it, who would be willing to be a licker? If you don't really hate it, who would be willing to fight for it? Luo had died before, so he hated death even more. The pain and powerlessness of the passing of life were really enough once. But whose fault was it that Su Qinghen became like this? What was she doing for? What did she go through? Luo didn't know, and Duan Mingyang didn't know either. The chairman of Zinke Biopharmaceuticals might know, but was he excited, sarcastic, or didn't care? Now, I want to know. Luo reached out and grabbed Duan Mingyang beside him and walked to the center of the abandoned building, like carrying a chicken. Then he threw Duan Mingyang to the ground, walked to the stairs, squatted, and sat on the ground. Su Qinghen, I want to know what happened to you in the past? Checking the household registration? At this moment, Su Qinghen, who had quietly stepped onto the last step, raised his head, and his eyes met Luo's in midair. He had no emotion about his failed infiltration. You want to attract my attention by the explosion, sneak over quietly, and kill me with one blow? Luo scratched his neck with his hand, as if telling a joke, talking about the fact that he almost died. I have this idea, and it has succeeded a few times, but you are very careful, more careful than I expected. Su Qinghen had already seen the real owner at this time, so he was no longer anxious. Not only did he not have the slightest intention of taking action, but he chatted with Luo in a gentle tone. You arrested Duan Mingyang for me? Yes. How did you see that? I didn't see it, but I felt that I was being calculated. Watching the surveillance and kidnapping Duan Mingyang are all things I need to do. Su Qinghen pointed to her nose and even smiled a little, but it was a pity that her smile was too cold. It seemed that not only could it not close the distance, but it made people feel creepy. Su Qinghen, what do you want to do? Luo looked at Su Qinghen very calmly, as calm as if he was dead. His eyes were as deep as a pool of water, and emotions such as anger, pain, hatred, pity, suspicion, etc. kept surging. I want to rescue Mu Yingluo, kill Tang Zujian, and destroy Zinke Group. Su Qinghen seemed to be talking about a dream. When she spoke, the girl smiled very brightly, as bright as if she saw the day when everything came true. This was the first time GLUO saw Su Qinghan smile, and when she smiled, she was really beautiful. It was like frost flowers in the cold wind, icy and delicate. So, what's your name? What do you want to do? My name is GLUO. The boss wants you to join us. I'm here to review you, observe and understand. GLUO originally thought of a lot of words, but after the Zinki branch was bombed into ruins and more than 200 lives were lost, GLUO had no ideas at all. He was just tired, very tired. What's the result? Su Qinghan had no reaction to GLUO's answer. She didn't try to believe or disbelieve. She tilted her head slightly, as if she wanted to see how complicated GLUO's expression was. There is no result yet, but there are a few questions. GLUO sighed and shook his head. He stood up and patted his clothes. His expression gradually became solemn. You did the explosion in Zinki? Yes. If we hadn't intervened, would you have detonated it? Not necessarily. It depends on the situation. Su Qinghan, if you can save all of them, and the price you pay is not high, will you save them? GLUO knew he shouldn't ask, but he asked anyway. Su Qinghan raised her head, looked at GLUO's serious expression, and shook her head without hesitation. No. Chapter 9, Rainfall. Why? GLUO was not surprised or angry at Su Qinghan's negative answer. He just looked at the girl calmly, as if he wanted to see her true thoughts from her eyes. No. Su Qinghan seemed to be stubborn about something, and her tone was unexpectedly rebellious. GLUO looked at the girl's increasingly cold face, shook his head helplessly, and sighed. Su Qinghan, why bother? You know it yourself. It's not okay to be blind and ignorant. Then what? Su Qinghan seemed to be hit in the pain in her heart. The girl's beautiful face rose slightly, and she was not afraid of life and death in her angry momentum. Su Qinghan, I'm sorry, I can't empathize with your experience. Everything I did just now may seem to you to be spying and malicious. But we have no grudge against you, and we don't want to have any grudges. GLUO looked at the girl's attitude of no regrets until death, and knew that he was forcing too hard, so he changed the subject and expressed his attitude sincerely. Now, the reason why I'm here is that I want you to join us. So, I want to know, what have you been through in the past? Why do you have to do such a cruel thing to save people? Why do you desperately want to destroy the Zinki group? Hey, do you think I will tell you? Even if I tell you, what's the point? Su Qinghan sneered, with disdain in her eyes, as well as unspeakable despair and pain. With the ability to return from death, she could have used any of her information to get words and exchange, but when GLUO asked about her past with the Zinki group, the girl chose to remain silent. GLUO, I've given you enough answers. Now, can you tell me what the name of your organization is, and what its purpose is? GLUO looked at Su Qinghan's evasive attitude, and knew that he could not get the truth from her. At this moment, the girl was no longer willing to test it. She just wanted to confirm whether they were different, and could not work together. The name of our organization is Silent Blue Wind. We gather together to fight against the impending doomsday and fight for a glimmer of hope for mankind. GLUO was actually testing the waters. He pointed to the sky, as if to tell Su Qinghan that the doomsday came from the sky, and as if to use the sky to represent an unforeseen crisis. To fight against the impending doomsday. Su Qinghan looked at GLUO's serious face, and was amused by his reason. How old are you, and you still dream of being a hero who can save the world? 2012 has been over for almost 1,000 years, and you are still dreaming of being persecuted. You guys are so interesting you have nothing to do. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Unfortunately, the facts are not ridiculous at all. GLUO let out a long breath, and his tightly clenched hand slowly stretched out. Su Qinghan's attitude was already within his expectations, but after knowing the cruelty of a certain answer, GLUO couldn't laugh at all. You know what? Su Qinghan looked at GLUO's serious expression, felt that he was not joking, and couldn't help frowning. We'll talk about this later. GLUO hasn't seized Su Qinghan's death return yet, so naturally he won't tell too many secret truths, lest it be too late to reverse the situation. Su Qinghan, Tell me your phone number and address. I'll write it down, and your review results will be sent to you in the form of a letter in 2 days. Huh. Sukinghan was stunned, and even couldn't tell for a moment whether GLUO was testing her or playing dumb. What does it mean? After all this time, this organization called Silent Blue Wind didn't even find out the most basic information about her, such as where she lives and what her phone number is? This is too weak. Besides, joining an organization is like finding a job. It's a two-way choice, right? You didn't even ask me what I think, and directly turned the question of whether I join your organization into a question of whether you allow me to join. How many dishes? Drinking like this? Is there something wrong with the leader of your organization? Or is his innate ability face, and everyone has to give him face? Sukinghan, I hope you understand that we really have no ill intentions. The information we found out was found out after all. We still hope to learn about your personal information from you. GLUO's tone sounded quite bitter at this time, but Sukinghan did not look happy. She was silent for a while, and still told GLUO her address and phone number. Thinking about it carefully, since GLUO and others were able to usurp her plan first, they must have known these basic information. Now asking her is probably just a process and hypocrisy. Of course, it may also be to see her attitude. However, it doesn't matter what. After dealing with the things in front of her, she will return from death, erase all of this, and then move immediately, change her number, and hide again. Next time, she will play with them well. Sukinghan, thank you for your cooperation. Duan Mingyang will be handed over to you. I wish you all the best. GLUO walked down the stairs and stood in front of Sukinghan without any defense. He stretched out his hand and expressed his goodwill frankly. I hope so. Sukinghan looked at GLUO, but still stretched out his hand and shook hands with GLUO without any sincerity. At this moment, return turned into death return again. Sukinghan, can I ask you a few simple questions? After GLUO gained the ability to read the game, he had no worries at all, and he relaxed instantly. Sukinghan keenly noticed the change in GLUO's mood. She carefully checked her right hand, and found nothing abnormal. What do you want to know? You can choose not to answer these questions, but if you answer, I hope you won't lie to me. GLUO walked to the edge of the building. Because the wall was not fixed early, a gust of wind blew in his face, blowing GLUO's face full of dust. GLUO turned his back to the wind. His eyes met Sukinghan's puzzled eyes, and then he smiled happily. Sukinghan, do you like to eat meat? Huh. I like it. Sukinghan was confused by GLUO's attitude. Why did he look so righteous just now, but now he is letting himself go like a husky? What about vegetables? Generally, what fruit do you like most? Watermelon and strawberry. What was your biggest dream as a child? To open a cake shop of my own. Why? GLUO, what do you want to do by asking these questions? Sukinghan was sure at this time that GLUO was collecting her information fearlessly, so the girl immediately stopped answering and stared at GLUO fiercely. I'm not doing anything. I just want our next meeting to be more harmonious. GLUO opened his hands as if he was hugging something. He blinked at Sukinghan cunningly, and then, in the shocked eyes of the girl, GLUO lay back, falling to the ground like raindrops. Sukinghan, whether I live or die, I will always watch over you. Chapter 10, Review. 6 o'clock on November 20th, 3005. Time marker 010,001. Second time back. GLUO, boom. When the thunderous sound rang in his head for the third time, GLUO, who was sleeping soundly, suddenly opened his eyes, but was dazed for about half a minute before he regained consciousness. Jumping off the building to die, it hurt so much. GLUO had died twice, but the more he experienced death, the more he admired Sukinghan. This 18-year-old girl was really a ruthless person. No wonder she killed people without blinking an eye. She killed people every day, so who else could she care about? Alas, although I got a lot of information, not much is useful. GLUO got out of bed and put on his slippers. He walked to the balcony a little tiredly. In the sky, a huge eye was staring at the earth quietly, as if it had become a landscape. Now it is basically certain that Sukinghan can't see this big eyeball. She can't detect that I took her innate ability. Finally, I'm indeed the Matryoshka Terminator. Sukinghan's Death return will completely disappear after my death, and she can't trace it back. GLUO's 3 most concerned questions now have answers. He should be happy, but thinking about Su King-hun's crazy behavior, GLUO couldn't laugh at all. To be honest, Duan Mingyang didn't know much. Just like GLUO guessed before, he was just a worker, used completely as a tool, and could be abandoned at will. GLUO didn't get any news about Su King-hun and Mu Yingluo from him, but he knew a lot of information about Zinke Biopharmaceuticals. For example, the chairman of Zinke Group is named Tang Zujian. It was really shocking. The chairman of a multinational group with a market value of tens of billions was actually 1 year younger than GLUO, and he had a lot of degrees, and was praised all over the internet. His personality was almost perfect. Su King-hun rescued Mu Yingluo, killed Tang Zujian, and destroyed Zinke Group. GLUO slowly closed his eyes, recalling the girl's body twisted by hatred at that time, and felt unspeakable sadness in his heart. Until now, I'm afraid Su King-hun herself can't say that her revenge is just. She may be a person who has been hurt and hates to the bone, but she has been stained with too many karmas and killings along the way. From her pupils, GLUO can see that Su King-hun herself thinks that she will not die well, but she is willing to accept it. It doesn't matter whether you are right or not, I will personally confirm it. GLUO doesn't plan to help anyone now. He just wants to use Su King-hun as a stepping stone to understand the world of evolvers and then make his own choice. As for Tang Zujian, GLUO thought about the monster-like Zinke Group, and he was sure in his heart that it was not as simple as it appeared on the surface. Tang Zujian must have built a huge network of relationships with the power of the evolvers, which turned an ordinary biopharmaceutical company into a capital giant. Regarding the research on evolvers, they must have been doing it. Even GLUO could think that the reason why Mu Yingluo was tightly grasped by Tang Zujian was probably because she was very valuable for research and was an extremely important experimental product. If that's the case, GLUO frowned, holding the railing with both hands, looking up at the sky, standing straight, like a spear pointing to the sky. The next moment, the thunderous sound hit GLUO's mind like a hammer, and GLUO's body trembled, as if he had an electric shock, but he still held on and still stood. Then, let's fight. The world is about to be destroyed. At most, I will be one step ahead, but how much later can you be than me? GLUO gritted his teeth and trembled as if he was carrying a heavy weight on his shoulders, but he did not bend down. Instead, he straightened his spine and laughed heartily, as if he suddenly figured out something. GLUO laughed more easily and indulgently than ever. He raised his hand and raised his middle finger to the city with towering buildings. Why? Why should others spend their time in wine and women and indulge in carnivals, but he should be worried, restless day and night, counting on his fingers to estimate the signs of the approaching doomsday? As an evolver, you are at least a forerunner of mankind. You don't consider the crisis of the race, and you are happy to fight in the internal struggle all day long like a carnival? Then continue to party every day. I know better than anyone that the end of the world is approaching. I'm a barefoot person, so why would I be afraid of you guys wearing shoes? Just wait for me. Don't let me meet you. If I meet you, you will definitely have a hard time. There must be no perfect human beings in this world. The more perfect a person is on the outside, the more flawed he is on the inside. If he seems to have no flaws, then he must have irreversible flaws, and he is so flawed that he looks like a monster. GLUO took a deep look at the white sky, then turned and walked back to the room. Having made up his mind, he was more free and at ease than ever before. Brushing teeth, washing face, breakfast. As if returning to the old track, GLUO finished his breakfast leisurely, sat on the chair for a while, and then got up to wash the dishes in the sink. In the dim morning light, GLUO wiped the water droplets on his hands, changed into his usual casual clothes, and left the residence calmly, as if he was going out for a walk. It was still early, and the sun had just risen. GLUO waited for a long time at the bus station before the bus finally arrived. After getting on the bus, GLUO found a seat by the window and took a nap with his head tilted. At present, GLUO has experienced the transportation plot of Zinke Biopharmaceutical branch twice. All the information has been basically collected, and GLUO feels that there is no need to participate in it. Now, there is only one thing he wants to confirm most if he is not here. Will Sukinghan detonate those bombs today? If so, then GLUO must seize Death Return, and then mediate with Sukinghan directly, to save the more than 240 lives. If not, then GLUO will let it go, and let everything continue to develop without his intervention. This is also the result GLUO hopes for most. Therefore, at Zinke Biopharmaceutical branch, as long as Sukinghan does not detonate the bomb, GLUO will not care what she does. It's just that afterward, GLUO will ask Wang Zilin to judge the nature of Sukinghan from the perspective of a third-party bystander, and adjust his attitude and plan towards her. GLUO never overestimates himself, but he will not underestimate himself too much. His innate ability, Return, can be a 50-50 match in front of any superpower. If he helps, Sukinghan can destroy Zinke Biopharmaceuticals directly, but at least it can provide a perfect insurance policy to ensure safety. If GLUO chooses to help Zinke Biopharmaceuticals, then needless to say, Sukinghan's biggest support will be destroyed, and she will have no other result, except being wiped out. Chapter 11, Collision. It is precisely because GLUO understands the significance of his choice, that he is so cautious. GLUO will slowly understand Zinke Biopharmaceutical Group, but for now, he will focus all his attention on Sukinghan, the first evolver he has met in the past 10 years. Before returning from death this time, GLUO had obtained Sukinghan's address and phone number through hints and deception. Sukinghan's phone number must not be called casually, otherwise once she is alerted, she will change her number at the least, or her home will be directly robbed. After repeated consideration, GLUO finally decided to go around Sukinghan's home, to confirm the authenticity of the address. If the timing is right, GLUO doesn't mind trying to contact her. It would be best to get to know her, but if not, just passing by is fine. Sukinghan's vigilance, so scary. GLUO was a little scared just thinking about facing Sukinghan. Apart from anything else, the 2 times he met her ended in death. But it is precisely this danger that makes GLUO have a bold idea in his mind. Sukinghan, who has the ability of Death Return, is not only the key to GLUO's inside world, but also the trump card to ensure his survival in any situation. If GLUO does not keep a close eye on such an important person, he will have no place to cry once he loses her trace. For this reason, GLUO began to seriously consider a possibility, moving to the vicinity of Sukinghan's house, preferably opposite. The danger of this choice is beyond doubt, but in contrast, the benefits are also extremely huge. Living at such a close distance, there must be interaction between the two. At that time, GLUO can even pretend to have secret feelings, and get closer to her little by little, and understand everything about her at the closest distance. If the situation forces me, I'm also willing to make some emotional sacrifices. GLUO imagined various situations in which he and Sukinghan lived opposite each other, and he began to go off track. After all, he was already 24 years old, and had never been in love. It was not easy for GLUO. It's just a fantasy, it's not against the law. Dung. Suddenly, a loud crash came from not far away, scaring GLUO back to reality from his fantasy. Then the bus braked suddenly, causing the people in the car to tilt. GLUO was the first person to react. He supported the back of the seat in front of him with one hand to stop his body, then pulled the glass open and immediately prepared to jump out of the car. But fortunately, all dangers had nothing to do with the bus. At the intersection with crisscrossing traffic, the 2 cars collided, one hit the lamppost obliquely, and the other rolled over for an unknown number of times, and fell into the flower bed with the chassis facing up. There was nothing thrilling, just an accidental and ordinary car accident. In a city with millions of people are like interlaced rotating gears. A slight misalignment will lead to a collision involving life and death. Onlookers may be moved or sigh, but few people will really lend a hand. GLUO certainly does not intend to participate in it. However, just when GLUO was about to sit down again, he suddenly saw a slender figure standing out from the crowd. Help! GLUO shouted hurriedly, then jumped out of the car window, passed through the chaotic traffic, and ran to the overturned car with sweat all over his head. Beauty. You can't lift it by yourself. Don't force it. Make room. Let the two uncles here help. Oh. Okay. Sukinghan seemed to be awakened and hurriedly made room. After the first reaction of rushing to save people faded away, Sukinghan realized that there were already many people around, and many people were still filming with their mobile phones. If she really turned the car over easily just now, the video would probably be spread on the internet immediately. Once her appearance and position were exposed, she would be in big trouble. After noticing the danger of being exposed, Sukinghan immediately changed her position, and the young man who reminded her, as if he noticed her embarrassment, immediately stood to her side to block the messy camera around her. Afterwards, with the efforts of everyone, the overturned car was straightened again. The driver had lost consciousness, but his injuries were not serious. After seeing someone call for an ambulance, Sukinghan quietly retreated to the corner and left the crowd. An accident, more or less, ended here. Sukinghan usually left quickly after saving people, but for some reason, this time, she did not walk too far away. Maybe, he hadn't thanked him yet. Sukinghan stood under the narrow shade of the tree, watching the kind-hearted young man walk out of the crowd. He had a handsome and resolute face, and his age was a little vague, like the stubbornness of 18 or 19 years old, and the peace of 24 or 25 years old. From his face, you can't see any pride after saving people, but a kind of inexplicable hurry. He pressed his left palm with his right hand, walked very fast, looked around, and seemed to be looking for something. He was injured? Sukinghan only remembered at this time that the young man was in a hurry to save people just now, and the position where his left hand was raised seemed to be damaged. In addition, he had just used all his strength, and the injury on his palm might not be light. Sukinghan thought she was a very indifferent person. She was just used to saving whoever she could without affecting herself. The young man didn't have any fatal injuries. If he walked a few more steps, he would be seen by the clinic or hospital. On the long street, the young man hurriedly crossed the traffic. He didn't notice Sukinghan's sight. The direction they walked made them staggered. Although he pressed his palm very hard, the blood kept flowing out, leaving spots on the ground. He was obviously injured because of saving people, but no one around him came forward to help. Instead, they scattered like a plague god. The young man was not angry. He walked to a slightly off bench and carefully took out his mobile phone with his right hand. However, because of the blood on his hand, he couldn't unlock the phone. In addition, there was a lot of blood on his clothes in a panic, and no one dared to approach him. Don't use your phone. Hold your wrist with your right hand. I'll help you. Ah. Thank you. Gluo was startled when he heard the familiar voice. He pretended to be surprised, bowed his head, and said thank you, then pinched his left wrist hard. The girl who walked to Gluo's side took 2 steps forward. She held the wound medicine and bandage in her hand. She first took a look at the condition of Gluo's wound, before applying the medicine. Don't use so much force. Be careful not to split the wound. Sukinghan's tone was a little cold, and she sounded very unapproachable, but her movements were very gentle. Gluo's wound was actually very deep. If it was more serious, he would have to get stitches. Fortunately, Sukinghan's medicine was specially made, and was very effective for external injuries, so there wouldn't be any big problems. Chapter 12. First meeting. There is no rust or dirt on the wound, so it should not be disinfected. If it hurts, you can shout it out. Don't bear it like this. Sukinghan concealed the special nature of her medicine, and did not intend to have more contact with the other party. Treating the young man's injuries was just a return gift. It didn't matter whether he believed these words or not. It didn't matter whether he went to the hospital or not. Anyway, he would never see him again. Thank you. Gluo gritted his teeth, and took a deep breath. It hurt. It really hurt. But in order to hold up his face in front of the girl, Gluo couldn't act so unbearable. He could only grit his teeth and bear it, trying to distract himself. And this moment was also the first time that Gluo could observe Sukinghan openly. Unlike when they met at the Zinki branch, Sukinghan at this time did not wear makeup, but it was precisely because of her bare face that people admired the girl's appearance even more. Because she was an evolver, Sukinghan's skin was very good, with invisible pores, and her skin was as smooth as jade, permeating the vitality of youth from inside to outside. Perhaps it was because of Soo-kyung-hun's cold temperament, the girl's beautiful appearance actually gave people an overwhelming sense of courage. She was about 1.7 meters tall, with eyebrows like willows, pure black pupils that were clear and deep, light pink lips that shone with luster, and well-proportioned facial features that looked like they were carved with exquisiteness. A head of black hair hung down behind the girl, extending all the way to her waist. The long hair at the temples was slightly messy, covering the girl's flawless ears. When talking, the girl's eyes would always meet Gluo's, without too much sharpness and scrutiny, but she would just look at you, and people with dark thoughts in their hearts would feel ashamed. Indifference, heroic spirit, and sassiness, the girl's complex temperaments blended together, bringing a wonderful sense of Sushi's independence, which stunned Gluo and even really forgot some of the pain. Are you a doctor? And you carry medicine with you? No, I'm just used to it. Soo-kyung-hun was also a little uncomfortable with Gluo's stare. Although he didn't show it, the girl tightened the bandage a little, which instantly made Gluo scream. Okay, don't get wet. When you go home, it will be healed in about half a month. Thank you. Sorry. Gluo scratched his cheek awkwardly, as if he realized that he had asked the wrong question. He hesitated for a moment, but still apologized embarrassedly. It's okay. I also want to thank you for what happened just now. Thank you. Soo-kyung-hun nodded slightly, as if she accepted Gluo's apology. Her thanks sounded a little casual, but when she said thank you, the girl's eyes turned elsewhere. You're welcome. Can you add it for a while? No, bye. Soo-kyung-hun got up and put the bandage and medicine in her pocket. She decisively extinguished Gluo's idea. Without any intention of chatting more, she turned around and left. Gluo sat on the bench, watching the girl's back as she walked away, feeling a little reluctant, but not chasing after her. It was not until he could no longer see Soo-kyung-hun that Gluo finally breathed a sigh of relief. I was so nervous. If there was a flaw, I would be dead. Gluo lowered his head and looked at his wrapped left hand. He was quite proud of his performance. Although he felt a little bloated, as an evolver, Gluo was indeed different from ordinary people. He could not see anything on the outside, but in fact, Gluo's physical attributes were almost 4 times that of ordinary people. His bones, skin, flesh, and internal organs were stronger than common sense. If he was really tested, the data obtained would be inhuman. So, if Gluo had not deliberately injured himself, how could his left hand be injured? For this wound, Gluo used more strength than lifting a car, but it seemed that he had done a little too much, and he himself was a little panicked. But everything is worth it. This injury not only brought Gluo and Soo-kyung-hun into contact, but more importantly, Gluo was injured so easily, and Soo-kyung-hun personally checked the wound. There is a high probability that this will give Soo-kyung-hun a false impression. People's subconscious judgment is actually very important. As long as Soo-kyung-hun intuitively thinks that Gluo is an ordinary person, the subsequent encounter and acquaintance can be explained by fate and coincidence. Even if Gluo reveals some flaws, Soo-kyung-hun will brain fill to explain it. What's more, in the conversation just now, Gluo deliberately stepped on a lot of thunder, asked Soo-kyung-hun why she carried medicine with her, stared at her rudely, and finally even wanted to add her as a friend. Judging from Soo-kyung-hun's decisiveness in leaving at the end, Gluo's self-blackening was undoubtedly successful. It is precisely because he deliberately approached Soo-kyung-hun and needed to give her a good impression that Gluo made her have a slightly worse impression of himself, which can eliminate a large part of her vigilance and then reverse her impression in the future, which can add a lot of favorability. There is no way. Soo-kyung-hun has been hurt too much, and her defense against people is like a hedgehog. If Gluo wants to get in touch with the real her, he must be ordinary enough. Only ordinary people will not threaten Soo-kyung-hun, and only if Soo-kyung-hun feels safe can he have a chance to deepen his relationship with her. It can be said that in order to build a good relationship with Soo-kyung-hun, Gluo really thought a lot. After just trying his hand, Gluo felt pretty good. 18 years old, in the second and third year of high school, so kind. Gluo lay on the bench with his head raised, with an unspeakable sigh in his heart. Soo-kyung-hun, who was covered with wounds, didn't know how many times she had gone back and forth between life and death. She almost no longer believed in anyone. But when the disaster happened, when most people chose to watch indifferently, she rushed out without hesitation and chose to save lives that had nothing to do with her. Maybe she understood the feeling of death too well, so she hoped that others could live well. Maybe she had killed too many people and was stained with too many karmas and nightmares. She wanted to find more redemption in innocent people. No matter what, in the chaos and noise after the car accident, she was the one who stood out from the crowd, even forgetting her own safety. And GLUO obviously could do all this, but he chose to watch at the first moment, just like everyone else. Her past, what on earth did she go through? GLUO seemed to be in confusion, sitting in the chair for a long time. He recalled every bit of contact with Sukinghan, and his curiosity about her became deeper and deeper. Until more and more people gathered around, GLUO was woken up by the noisy voices. He didn't know when the cold morning light faded, the prosperous steel city had awakened, and the intertwined cause and effect lines finally began to burn. The first meeting is done. The next step is finding a job. Chapter 13. Waiting. Fighting alone. GLUO always remembered that his biggest advantage now was that as a third party, he had been hiding in the dark. Neither Sukinghan nor Zinke Biopharmaceuticals knew of his existence, and his 10-year working life had made him a perfect ordinary person. At this point in time, no matter how Sukinghan explored, or how Zinke Group collected information, the information they finally saw would only show that GLUO was not a threat and did not need to be paid attention to. This ordinary person, like everyone else, was the best cover for GLUO. So, GLUO did not need to worry at all. He just had to maintain his own personality and meet Sukinghan on the basis of coincidence. First, change clothes. GLUO looked at his blood-stained shirt and could not help but feel sad for his wallet, but this was also a good thing. At least it gave him a suitable reason to check out the place. Before leaving, GLUO tried to move his left hand and felt that the pain was not so obvious. Sukinghan's medicine was indeed extraordinary. A wound on half of the palm would heal in half a month for an ordinary person, but GLUO, an evolver, might heal in 4 or 5 days. I feel like Sukinghan can make a fortune just by selling this medicine. GLUO finished muttering this sentence, and he laughed himself. Sukinghan, who has death return, will never lack money. If she wants to make money, she can choose lottery, horse racing, or spinach, and she can get as much money as she wants. In the future, I will try it too. GLUO felt unexpectedly relaxed. This sudden encounter with Sukinghan made him calm down. What happened afterwards was unexpectedly smooth. GLUO looked around and not only bought a suitable top, but also chatted with a rental agent for a while. After probing and asking, GLUO did have some understanding of the neighborhood where Sukinghan lived. It was a very old school district with old buildings inside. The price was very cheap and there were many empty rooms. However, the agent did not recommend GLUO to live there because of the renovation of the old buildings. The situation there, which was already a bit chaotic, was now very complicated. In terms of location alone, that neighborhood was still very good. It was not far from the city center, and there were also complete shopping malls and parks around it. But it is also because of the good location that the buildings there were built the earliest. However, at that time, Changlin City was still not very developed, and the buildings were very ordinary, all of which were 6-story low buildings, and the prices were not high. Later, Changlin City developed, and the land in that block became valuable, but the real estate had not expired, and it was impossible to demolish it. However, this matter was remembered by many people. Now, Changlin City has become a first-tier city, and the value of that block is really huge, so even if there are still people living there, the demolition has already begun secretly. The reason why it is secretly is that the real estate has not expired, and there is no qualification for forced demolition, but someone wants to buy all the houses in everyone's hands, and then tear it down and rebuild. The whole plan is completely a big cake, and many people are salivating at it, but they are very restrained, and are still testing it, and this testing is not a kind advice. Therefore, there are not many people living in the old community where Sukinghan lives, and of course no one sells houses. There are a lot of people renting houses, but there are very few tenants, and the rent is very cheap, but the safety is difficult to guarantee. It's perfect. After knowing this information, GLUO felt that he was rewarded for saving people. What was there for him as an evolver to be afraid of? Was he afraid of those little ruffians? Being close to Sukinghan, having a house, and having cheap rent. Look, all the reasons for moving were there. What else did GLUO ask for? However, even if it went so smoothly, GLUO was not careless. Even if he knew Sukinghan's specific address, he was not in a hurry to rush over or look for a house to rent. GLUO took his mobile phone and began to search for recruitment and selected a few suitable ones, made phone appointments, and prepared for the interview. And this interview route, as the work dispersed, became closer and closer to a certain place. Without much modification, GLUO's intentional action trajectory was simply hidden. It's 8:30 so soon. GLUO hung up the 8th interview call, found a small shop, and sat in it. While waiting for the noodles, GLUO turned his phone over and over, his heart in a mess. As it should be, GLUO, the butterfly that goes back in time, did not cause a storm of causal chaos. When it was almost 9 o'clock, Wang Zilin called very punctually. This time, GLUO decisively rejected the job. No matter how Wang Zilin persuaded him, he did not agree. Wang Zilin hung up the phone helplessly and regretfully, and his mood was very low. That's good. GLUO is now very confident that, if he does not get involved in Wang Zilin's affairs, Sukinghan will never detonate those bombs. So, now it's good. GLUO finished his noodles silently, holding the blood-stained clothes in his hand, with a bandage on his left hand, and stepped into his role as a job seeker. For many people, finding a job may be as important as finding a wife, but GLUO often changes his career, and is not too strict. At the moment, GLUO has no intention of joining the job at all. Everything is just to kill time. Of course, you can also say that he is killing time. The storyline of Sukinghan is approaching the heaviest time. 240 lives may die at any time. No one knows about this tragic explosion, except GLUO and Sukinghan. GLUO thought he didn't care anymore, but as time got closer to the explosion, GLUO's mood became uncontrollably scattered. During the interview, GLUO kept refreshing the webpage, constantly searching for the address of the new branch, and checking the latest news in Changlin City. He wanted to call Wang Zilin, but he was afraid that Sukinghan hadn't left yet and would affect the storyline, so he could only wait, waiting for the end, but not knowing when it would end, knowing the process, but not knowing whether the process was cruel. This Scrodinger's possibility made GLUO extremely tormented. Thinking carefully, at this time, GLUO was actually no longer worried about Wang Zilin and the others. After all, he would save those more than 240 lives, no matter what he said. What really worries GLUO is Sukinghan. Has she really turned into a monster, with a kind heart and a cold appearance? If a person with death return turns into a demon, the disasters she causes will be a nightmare that is hard to resist. If things come to that point, as a person who has the ability to end it all, GLUO may have to kill Sukinghan. Regardless of love or hate, even if it is just for himself, GLUO must maintain the false stability at the moment. So, GLUO is waiting for a kind person to go home. Chapter 14. Ignore. There are 11 applicants present, but our Inhabar only has 4 vacancies for security guards this time. First of all, I want to emphasize that as an interviewer, I hope that you, as applicants, can at least respect each other. The hall of the closed bar was a little dim. The security captain, who was the interviewer, stood by the bar. Facing such a tall and strong man, the interviewees became nervous and listened to him carefully. Except a young man who was staring at his phone and concentrating on checking the news. As an interviewer, facing such disrespectful applicants, the security captain was naturally angry. Among these 11 people, there might be people who would work under him in the future. If he couldn't calm the situation, how could he lead the team in the future? Why did the manager let him be the captain? The applicant over there, please put away your phone or leave immediately. Save some face for yourself. The security captain held back his anger and did not swear immediately, but planned to let the young man get out quickly. However, what everyone did not expect was that the young man who was looking at his phone was still staring at the screen. He seemed not to hear the security captain talking. He frowned while looking at it, as if he was thinking about something important. In silence, the atmosphere became weird. The other 10 interviewees could not help but look at this unique young man. Some looked at him with contempt, some were worried, and some wanted to see a good show. In a place like a bar, everyone knows what security guards do. When faced with bad customers, colleagues who are looking for trouble, and people who want to eat a free meal, they have to beat them out. As for the security captain, he looked fierce and ferocious. Obviously, he was also a gangster in the past. He must have fought a lot and had a lot of criminal records for injuring people. How could it be so easy to get a salary that far exceeds that of his peers? Among the 11 applicants, except for this young man, all the others were strong men. Not to mention retired soldiers, there were also martial artists. But look at this young man. He looks like a job applicant. His left hand is still bandaged because of some injury. As soon as he entered the room, this disabled person started looking at his phone, and he didn't know what important thing he was talking about. He was not polite and disrespectful. Such a person deserves a beating. He will remember the beatings of society, and he deserves it. I'll give you one more chance. Now, get out. The security captain was furious at this time, but he didn't do anything. He did it for money when he was working, but now he just wanted to save face and didn't want to be so direct. It's just a pity that a young man who was looking at his phone really ignored him completely. It's not a matter of not giving him face, it's just, he didn't even consider him as a person and treated this interview as a joke. At this time, the security captain felt that the other applicants were looking at him in the wrong way. If he didn't teach a lesson to those who didn't give him face, then he really couldn't lead the team. Shame on you. The security captain took 2 steps and walked to the young man, grabbed his mobile phone, and was about to pull it out of his hand and throw it away. HMM. 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 However, the security captain, who was more than 1.8 meters tall and weighed 170 to 180 kilograms, suddenly tried to pull the mobile phone in the young man's hand, but he couldn't pull it away. What are you doing? GLUO was anxious at this time. If he hadn't been interrupted suddenly, he didn't know what was happening around him. These boring interviews were just a cover to get close to Sukinghan. How could he care? He didn't plan to apply for the job in the first place, so why did he care about it? You come to apply for a job, the most basic etiquette, didn't your mother tell you? The security captain's words were a bit vulgar, and he pulled it hard again, but the mobile phone was held in GLUO's hand and didn't move at all. I've always been alone. GLUO was already upset, and he was going to go through the motions and leave, but he was inexplicably disturbed by someone, and his mood suddenly became bad. Do you understand? GLUO grabbed the captain's wrist and twisted it hard. With a click, the joint of the captain's wrist was dislocated. Then GLUO kicked his face bone and made the captain half kneel in front of him. Do you understand now? Although GLUO only had one right hand, his movements were extremely fierce. He pulled the captain's right hand and pressed his arm behind his neck. Then he pressed hard. The captain, such a strong man, half knelt in front of GLUO and couldn't get up, no matter how hard he struggled. You are looking for death. The captain of the security felt that his right hand was numb and his left leg was so painful that he couldn't stand up. He became fierce and struggled to fight with GLUO, but GLUO pressed him with his right hand like a mountain. Not only did he not get up, but he couldn't even raise his head. From beginning to end, GLUO didn't actually use heavy hands. Although the captain of the security looked a little ugly, he was not injured. It was better to say that he was crazy because of losing face than being beaten. If you don't know how to talk, shut up. GLUO pushed his knee upwards, not too hard, but the security captain's face seemed to hit a wall, and it was instantly disfigured, with blood flowing from his nose, one of his front teeth broken, and he fainted. GLUO didn't expect the security captain to be so unbearable. He felt that he was holding back his strength, but the man who had just shouted to beat him was now almost lying on the ground. Trouble. GLUO threw the man to the ground, feeling very irritated. He was not a troublemaker at ordinary times, and fighting was always a counterattack when he was forced to do so. The current situation made him even more upset. At this time, because of the noise just now, several security guards of the bar had come over, and the waiter also went upstairs, apparently to inform the manager. What a trouble. Gluo was in a very bad mood now. Sukinghan's matter was already bad enough for him, but these rubbish in front of him were still baring their teeth at him. The wound on his left hand was aching slightly, and Gluo felt a little uncomfortable holding the phone in his bandaged hand, so he simply put it in his pocket. He stood there, and the other 10 applicants consciously distanced themselves from him. The 4 security guards on duty at the bar held rubber batons in their hands, blocking Gluo's way out. Let's stop here, okay? I was wrong in this interview, and I apologize to you. But he started it first, and he cursed very badly, so I hit him, and he won't lose. Gluo is a person who tends to be calm. He knows that his mentality is not right now, so he doesn't want to meddle in other people's business. But the fight has already started, and the matter seems to be irreconcilable. Gluo can only express his attitude. To be honest, today, I really don't want to fight. I have a few $100s in my pocket, and I will compensate you all. Let's make everything even, okay? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15, Crash. In such a tense situation, Gluo felt that his words were already sincere. However, Gluo's words of wanting to stop here, to the people around him, were obviously that he was afraid, and was speaking softly. Therefore, the response Gluo received was only silence. There are a lot of things today, I don't want to do anything. Let's stop here. Gluo also found out his mistake. At this point, if he continued to be tough, these people were afraid that things would get out of hand, and maybe he could end it simply. However, like hunting jackals, seeing Gluo's weakness and cowardice, they would not only not let him go, but would become more ferocious. At this time, the bar manager came down from the second floor. He seemed to be entertaining some guests. After the security guard explained the situation to him, the manager waved his hand impatiently, indicating that it should be resolved quickly. Gluo took a deep breath irritably, and there seemed to be a fire burning in his heart, not because of the trouble in front of him, but because Gluo suddenly realized that his mentality was not right. On weekdays, Gluo acts like an ordinary person in a peaceful manner. It is precisely because he has a secret that he is more cautious and restrained. He never applies for jobs that require hands-on work. Even if he encounters injustice during the application and meets an interviewer who is several times worse than this security chief, Gluo can leave calmly. However, now, after Gluo has been searching for 10 years, and finally met the second evolver, and activated his innate ability for the first time, Gluo's mentality has changed. It is not obvious, but it has indeed changed. Moreover, since meeting Sukinghan, Gluo has died twice, and the things he encountered were also depressing and painful. These memories piled up in Gluo's heart, and have become a kind of negative pressure. Many times, there is only a fine line between rage and venting. Gluo tried to calm himself, but the other party did not want to give up, beat him up, and throw him into the garbage dump from the back door. The bar manager has naturally seen this kind of scene. It is impossible to call the police. It is undoubtedly the most appropriate to teach him a lesson and let the other party learn his lesson. People in their line of work cannot just pick trouble, but they must not be afraid of trouble. If the sign is there, and cats and dogs step on it, how can they do business? Don't go too far, just break an arm. The bar manager said the degree, turned his head, and looked at Gluo again, then walked upstairs, intending to go back, to continue to receive guests. With the manager's order, 4 security guards came over with rubber sticks. Gluo rubbed his head, as if he had a headache, and when he opened his eyes again, his eyes had become terrifying. Then let it be. At this point, Gluo no longer suppressed himself. His muscles suddenly tensed up, and every step forward was very slow, but it seemed to be full of pressure like thunder. The 4 security guards holding rubber sticks did not see anything unusual, and still surrounded GLUO with a sneer. The other applicants all looked like they were watching a good show. Only a short boy saw the trick. He did not look at GLUO's hand, but stared at GLUO's shoulder. The serious look, just like watching his master teaching him martial arts, his eyes fixed on him. Is this momentum? Zuyi had been practicing martial arts with his master since he was a child, and he learned to use the gun. His master often warned him that the gun must be steady and the eyes must be accurate. He practiced for a full 13 years, and his kung fu barely reached the level of master, but his eyesight was definitely not bad. The young man in front of him who was applying for the job with him looked delicate and thin, and Zuyi didn't pay attention to him at first, but now, he no longer cared about the application, but stared at GLUO intently, trying to learn something. The way the young man just subdued the security captain was so fast and fierce that he had even changed his movements just now, and the security captain was already dead. Zuyi had never seen such a reaction and practice method that was focused on killing. Even his master, when he took him to chase wolves in Mobi, was not so fast and fierce. At this moment, when the young man walked forward to meet the 4 security guards, others saw irrational bravado, but Zuyi saw the dullness before the thunder. Because, from him, Zuyi saw the momentum. Beyond simple moves and reactions, it is the momentum that is created by twisting a person's physique, mind, breath, and will together. The next moment, as if to confirm Zuyi's judgment, when the 4 security guards waved the rubber sticks in their hands, the besieged GLUO suddenly opened his arms, did not retreat but advanced, and crashed into them with an afterimage. Bang! Everyone saw GLUO's movements clearly, which was simply raising his arms horizontally and rushing forward. However, the chilling thing is that no one can estimate how fast GLUO was just now, and how much power he had. He crashed into the 4 people head on, and now he stood there with an indifferent look on his face, but the 4 security guards all flew out. It was not just falling backwards, but like being hit head on by a speeding car. The whole person flew into the air, directly 7 or 8 meters away, and fell in the lobby of the bar with a crash. Amid the sound of shattering glass, the 4 security guards who had knocked over a bunch of tables and chairs had all lost consciousness, bleeding from their mouths and noses, and 2 of them had blood gushing out of their ears. No one knew how serious their injuries were, but they didn't even make a sound. These 4 security guards, are they dead? None of the 10 applicants who were watching dared to laugh at this time, and even spoke in a very low voice. Zuyi glanced at the person who was talking next to him, and felt that his hands were shaking. To be honest, since everyone had the courage to come here to apply for the bar security job, they must not only be strong, but must have fought before. However, even those who had served in the military had never seen such a fight. When people bumped into them, the 4 people flew 7 or 8 meters away. What was even more terrifying was that the 4 people fell to the ground and were silent. It was hard to say how many bones were broken, but their heads at least had a slight concussion. He won't die. He just hit his chest on purpose. Zuyi's eyesight was far superior to others. He just saw with his own eyes that this young man could have hit the security guard's neck with his arms, but he moved down and hit his chest. The bones were strong, and the blood he vomited was just gastric bleeding. At that time, with such a strong force, if the neck was really hit, the person's cervical spine would inevitably be deformed, the bones on the neck would be broken, and the connection between the spine and the brainstem would be broken. It would be fate for the person to survive, and if he survived, he would probably be paralyzed. It's good that he won't die. Who can tell from his handsome appearance? He's too fierce. This is probably what the ancient warriors were like. It's not possible to knock someone down directly. Ordinary warriors can't do it. I guess only warriors like Banwedi and Zuzhu can do it, but they are so big. I've learned a lot. I won't do this job anymore. I'll leave soon. This guy's not to be trifled with. Brothers, think carefully about what you want to do. Don't implicate others. You all have families. Chapter 16, Menwu. There were 10 applicants who came for the interview with GLUO, and some of them were fierce, but facing the current situation, they were really scared. They came to apply for security guards. Something happened in the bar, and the security captain was beaten like that. Among the 10 people, many wanted to show off, take down GLUO, and then take the position of security captain. However, now it seems that this young man is not a human, but a human-shaped beast. If a person with this kind of force is really provoked, he dares to kill everyone present and then escape. From watching the show, to being eager to try, to being terrified now, the 10 applicants who were watching completely gave up the idea of this job. One by one, they all thought about how to get out, and saving their lives was the most important thing. What's wrong? What's broken? The bar manager who had just gone upstairs came down again, because he heard a loud noise. He thought that his security guards were careless and smashed the things in the bar. As a result, when he walked back to the first floor, the situation in front of him made him instantly confused. In the empty bar, you could hear a pin drop. The job applicants kept their mouths shut and pretended to be insulated. 4 security guards fell to the ground, and it was unknown whether they were dead or alive. The waiters hid in the corner. GLUO stood still, as if he was a king waiting for a challenge. Just now he wanted to give an explanation to the bar. Now that he has taken action, the bar must give him an explanation. What happened? The bar manager has seen big scenes, but those were all fights between 2 gangs. He just left for less than 10 seconds. How come the 4 security guards fell to the ground and there was no sound? They didn't even move. If all 4 of them died, it would be a big deal. The boss couldn't cover it up. The bar would definitely be finished. As a manager, he would definitely lose his job and even be in trouble. Manager Key, what's wrong? Are there some blind people here to make trouble? The fierce voices of the people coming down from the 2nd floor came before they even arrived. It was mid-November, and it was already chilly outside, but the leading brute was still wearing half-rolled sleeves. The scars on his arms were as ugly as centipedes. He looked aggressive, and was obviously a man who lived in blood. The guests that the bar manager had entertained on the 2nd floor before were obviously these people. There were 7 people coming down, and none of them looked good, especially the leader who was talking. His eyes were bulging, and his eyeballs were huge, and his eyes were fierce. Brother Mengwu. The bar manager was at a loss, and when he heard someone standing on his side, he immediately felt like he had found his backbone. Brother Mengwu. I can't make the boss's decision on the demolition cooperation, but I will definitely do my best to let the boss meet you. Haha, Manager Key is worried. Since we met, how could I not help? This matter will definitely not be difficult for you. No one knew Mengwu's original plan, but now that he got the promise of the bar manager, he was very considerate and took on all the things directly. Then I'll trouble you, brother. The bar manager nodded gratefully. Mengwu patted his shoulder, stood in front of him, and looked up and down at GLUO. Young man, who did you learn from? Your technique is not bad. Mengwu is not as rough as he looks. He is fierce and cruel, but he is also very cautious. He has been practicing for many years. Although he is not as good as before due to alcohol and sex, Mengwu can see at a glance that these 4 security guards were beaten together. Although they lost consciousness, they will not die. I learned it from watching videos. Want to fight? Come on. GLUO raised his hand and hooked his fingers with an extremely cold attitude. Mengwu's face instantly darkened. He originally thought that this kid had some abilities and wanted to recruit him under his command, but now it seems that the ignorant are pitiful. Be careful, don't kill him. Mengwu made a gesture, and the 6 brothers behind him drew their long swords and surrounded GLUO like a pack of hunting wolves. There is no doubt that the 6 people Mengwu brought with him are definitely ruthless fighters. They are not cowards like the security guards, and will never show mercy. Since Mengwu said that he would not kill him, it means that it doesn't matter how disabled GLUO is. After the sudden rain, the setting sun is strong. I want to light the lamp. Flags are waving to achieve a bravery in the chilly atmosphere. The light music of a mobile phone suddenly sounded. GLUO's murderous intent stagnated, and he hurriedly took out his mobile phone. Almost at the same time, the snow white blade chopped down fiercely. GLUO's eyes were always on the mobile phone. He didn't pay any attention to the knifeman in front of him. He just stepped back and avoided the chop. Then, GLUO put the mobile phone in his bandaged left hand and slid it to answer the call. "Hello, Wang Zilin? How is yours?" GLUO listened to the phone with his left ear, leaned forward, and grabbed the right wrist of the knifeman in front of him with his free right hand. Then GLUO turned his hand and twisted it. With the crisp sound of bones, the knife that was more than half a meter long fell to the ground. "Fuck you." The fierce knifeman only felt a pain in his wrist, and then he completely lost the consciousness of his right hand. He screamed and wanted to insult GLUO, but he didn't expect that GLUO had already loosened his wrist. Before he finished his first curse, he hit him in the cheek with a side punch, which made him lose consciousness directly. "GLUO, what's that sound? Is there a fight?" "No, I'm watching a movie." GLUO's answer was without any emotional fluctuations. Wang Zilin on the other end of the phone was stunned for a moment, but did not doubt GLUO's words. Instead, he continued to complain. "GLUO, it's a pity that you didn't come today, otherwise you would definitely be the first in the test. Choose a more difficult route at that time, and you will definitely win 100,000 this time." "So much. That's really a pity, but since you've already won the bid, it doesn't matter whether I have it or not." GLUO covered the phone with his left hand, trying to reduce the noise in front of him. At this time, the remaining 5 knifemen had already rushed over. GLUO took a few steps back, walked to the side of the bar, grabbed a fulcrum with his right hand, and pulled it suddenly, with the sound of wooden nails breaking. The semi-fixed bar was actually pulled down by GLUO directly. With just one right hand, no one could have imagined how much strength GLUO used. When the bar was lifted up, it was as simple as tearing off the wings of a roast chicken. "Hey GLUO, you are being too self-deprecating when you say that. If you come here, it will definitely be a different story." "Oh, forget it. You won't understand, even if I tell you." "What movie are you watching there? So loud?" "A movie about the end of the world. A martial arts movie." GLUO's answer was very short, but his action was extremely fierce. GLUO swung the 7 or 8 meter long bar with one hand and threw it directly forward, just like a wall was pushed out flat. The 2 fastest knifemen had no chance to dodge at all and hit the stone tabletop of the bar head on. Their heads were like being hit by a hammer, and blood gushed out instantly, and they fell to the ground with a plop. Chapter 17. Soothing. This is indeed a martial arts film. Zuyi looked at the 2 knifemen falling straight down and felt that he had really learned a lot. The 7 or 8 meter long bar, a solid wood table with a marble surface, was pulled up from the ground with one hand and thrown out like a wall. Who can withstand this? To be honest, Zuyi had seen people fighting before, but he had never seen such a violent fighting style. It was not a simple victory of strength and skills, but a deeper level, such as the all-round crushing of judgment and reaction ability, just as ridiculous as hard Kigen facing firearms. This man is Mengwu. I've heard of his vicious reputation. Look at his eyes. He must have killed someone. How he hit a wall this time? This man, with one hand injured to answer the phone, used the other hand to attack and defend, and one completely no way to fight. Absolutely. The bar counter smashed over and directly split the heads of the 2 men. The marble tablet top was cracked. How could he look so gentle? The 10 applicants hid far away at this time. They dared to talk to each other in whispers. Mengwu's reputation in this area is not small, especially his ruthless attack. But a gangster like Mengwu, with 6 knifemen close to him, was crushed and knocked down 3 in a dozen seconds. The remaining 3 froze in place and dared not rush forward. And this guy was still talking on the phone. 7 people were half killed by him, but he didn't frown. To be honest, at this point, this fight is completely impossible to win. I'm afraid Mengwu will have to do it himself later, which will be interesting. Wang Zilin, did everything go well for you today? Did you encounter any trouble? GLUO didn't even look at the 3 knifemen lying on the ground. His tone sounded as if he was really watching a movie. Wang Zilin on the other end of the phone didn't find anything unusual and continued to mutter about his experience. "No, everything went well. Early this morning, I went to the branch of Zinki Biopharmaceuticals. First I looked at the information and then listened to their manager's speech. After that, Probably because they were afraid of cheating, the drivers of various logistics companies were notified on the spot and had to come within 2 hours. If you don't want to come, I'll call Leoli. Then, it was a lottery and test. Leoli barely made it into the top 15. The route assigned to him was not too difficult, but the money he was given was much less. For long-term cooperation, it depends on this trip, so it's all fine. Wang Zilin's tone was somewhat unwilling, and it was obvious that he was jealous of the route that ranked first in the test. Jialuo did not comment on this. Since Wang Zilin had returned home safely without encountering any abnormalities, then everything was the best choice. Obviously, without his existence, Su Qinghan would not have detonated the bomb. After understanding this, even if Jialuo went back again, he would not touch the storyline of Wang Zilin. Congratulations. Say hello to Leoli for me. Jialuo's most worried situation about Su Qinghan did not happen after all, and his clenched mind was completely relaxed. Jialuo, let me tell you, I met a beautiful woman with a great temperament today, and I was moved. Really, love at first sight. Moved. You are greedy for her body. Did you ask her name? I asked. Her name is Su Qinghan. She asked me a lot of questions, and I specifically asked for her phone number. Wang Zilin's voice was mean, and he was obviously very proud of his intelligence, but when Jialuo heard the name, his mind was instantly confused, and countless sparks flashed in his thoughts. How do you know this person? Tell me she sat next to me during the meeting, but left halfway. You can't see her even if you come. You're so jealous. She must be a newcomer, and ask me a lot of questions. Tell me her phone number. I'll see if it's the one I know. Jialuo's breathing was already disordered after listening to Wang Zilin's story. Jialuo never expected that Su Qinghan had contact with Wang Zilin, and it seemed that he had been in contact with him earlier than him. To be honest, Jialuo's current trajectory of action can almost be said to be an ambush and hunting for Su Qinghan. Jialuo's biggest worry is that Su Qinghan has discovered him inexplicably. In this case, as long as she follows the clues, she will definitely find that Jialuo is setting her up, and then everything will be over. Ah, you know Su Qinghan? Wang Zilin didn't expect that he would run into someone Jialuo's acquaintance. He smacked his lips and told Jialuo the phone number. It's different from the phone number one. No, it's not the same person. Jialuo was sure that the person Wang Zilin contacted was Su Qinghan, but the number Su Qinghan gave Wang Zilin was different from the one he gave himself. Jialuo didn't know whether it was true or not, so he could only write them all down. Different? Is it possible that Su Qinghan has two numbers? Tell me yours too. Goodbye. Just harass the girl you like and stop flirting around. Jialuo naturally would not tell Wang Zilin such an important thing. Wang Zilin instantly felt that he was taken advantage of and began to criticize Jialuo in an angry manner. Jialuo was not angry, he just lied and brushed the matter off. Then the two chatted for a while. Jialuo asked some questions. Although Wang Zilin was a little unhappy, he answered them all well. Congratulations in advance on reaching a long-term cooperation with Zinke Group. I will treat you to dinner next time I have a chance. After asking about the situation, Jialuo no longer had the idea of continuing to chat with Wang Zilin. The person on the other end of the phone didn't notice anything and thought that Jialuo was obsessed with watching the movie. After retorting to Jialuo again, Wang Zilin hung up the phone. It's okay, that's all. Jialuo put his phone back into his pocket and breathed a long sigh of relief. On the other side of the Zinke branch, Su Qinghan was still very restrained. Knowing this, Jialuo felt inexplicably happy. Now, Jialuo raised his head and swept his eyes through the silent hall. There was not much coldness, but there was not a bit of softness either. Do you want to continue fighting? I admit defeat this time. Just give me a name. Meng Wu was a ruthless man after all. If he couldn't see the situation clearly, his life would be in vain. Not to mention that there were only 6 people. Even if he pulled twice as many people over, they couldn't beat Jialuo. He had already lost face here, but he must get back his face as Meng Wu. Next time, he must get it back. My name is Jialuo. My name, phone number, and resume are all on it. If you want revenge, I'm always here to help. Jialuo saw that Meng Wu was timid, but he was not in the mood to fight now, so it didn't matter if he let him go. This time, I was also wrong, so I won't record it. Chapter 18, Zuyi. But, next time, if you come to me yourself, then no matter what you want, I will accompany you to the end. There was no threat in Gluo's tone, just as calm as talking about what to eat for breakfast today, but Mengwu on the other end could see that Gluo was not speaking harshly, he was just expressing the result. Unlike him, this man's cruelty oozes out from the bones. Mengwu had no intention of speaking anymore, just looking at Gluo in silence. After all, he was an old man in the arena. Although he looked reckless and fierce, his inner cunning and carefulness had become a habit. You are just like that. Gluo turned his head to look at Mengwu. He didn't expect that this gangster boss didn't dare to look at Gluo, but directly lowered his eyes and silently cowered. Gluo didn't care about Mengwu's attitude. After all, he was a calm person. He looked very domineering just now, but in fact he had been holding back. The 7 people he attacked would not die. Although they looked miserable, their injuries were not serious and the involvement would not be too great. Goodbye. Gluo had no interest in staying any longer. He turned and walked out of the bar, as if he was going out for a walk. Outside the door, the sun was gradually setting. Gluo only then noticed that it was almost 3 o'clock. Gluo touched his stomach and felt a little hungry. He ordered a bowl of rice with toppings from a stall not far away. Just like there was no fish in the fish-flavored pork shreds, there was no mutton and the stir-fried mutton with green onions that Gluo ordered. However, Gluo was used to being poor, so he would eat fried pork as well. However, before he had taken a few bites, Gluo put down his chopsticks. Do you have something to say? Gluo recognized this man. He was the shortest of the 11 people who had just applied for the job. His muscles were not bloated at all, and his skin was slightly dark. It was obvious that he had been training for many years. Mr. Gluo, my name is Zuyi. Zuyi himself didn't know why he came to Gluo for some reason. He was only 19 years old and had not experienced much. Now Gluo just looked at him and stuttered when he spoke. Don't be nervous, I can see that you have no ill intentions. Haven't you eaten yet? Sit down. Gluo thought it was Mengwu's revenge at first, but Zuyi was obviously a simple and honest rural child. The reason why his eyes were evasive was because of his inferiority complex. He didn't have any malice or impurities. Gluo also ordered a bowl of rice with toppings for Zuyi. Zuyi hurriedly wanted to pay. Gluo waved his hand and paid with his mobile phone. Zuyi moved his lips and said thank you. To be honest, Gluo was a little curious now. He had just seen that kind of situation in the bar. Why did Zuyi come to him when he was so nervous? Look at this attitude. It seems like he has something to ask for. Gluo took the complete initiative and was naturally not in a hurry. While waiting for the rice with toppings for him, Gluo did not speak and Zuyi did not dare to speak. In silence, Gluo carefully looked at Zuyi, staring at the young man so hard that he felt uncomfortable all over and dared not move in his chair. Have you practiced martial arts? Gluo felt that he had almost finished talking, so he started talking. When Zuyi heard Gluo start the conversation, he relaxed. When people meet for the first time, they are not afraid of disagreements when talking, but they are afraid of silence, which is simply torture for the weaker party. I practiced with guns for 13 years. Why don't you practice anymore? I can't always not make money and come out to work. When Zuyi said this, his eyes were a little red. He had studied under his master for 13 years. His master valued him more than his own son, but he still disappointed his master. Tell me about it. Gluo didn't know why Zuyi was looking for him, but he was still willing to listen to his story. At this time, the proprietress brought the rice with toppings and placed it in front of Zuyi. The young man took the chopsticks that Gluo had broken open, lowered his head, and tears began to fall into the plate. The master is a well-known figure in our village. Children in every household want to learn from him. When he said he would accept disciples, children from the surrounding villages all went to learn. My parents disagreed at first, but later they couldn't persuade me, so they agreed. I'm stupid and I learn slowly, which is far behind the others. I was anxious, so I practiced, and had no choice but to practice. In the beginning, I practiced too hard and hurt myself. The master scolded me, but fortunately he didn't drive me away and still let me learn from him. Learning martial arts is hard and tiring. Gradually, fewer and fewer people practiced martial arts. By that time, I was finally able to catch up. The master said that I was stupid and lacked understanding. But diligence can make up for lack of talent, so I practiced, and gradually I practiced well. Later, the master accepted me as his apprentice, and I practiced with him for 13 years. Zuyi seemed to be very hungry. He ate his rice in big mouthfuls. He hung his head and ate with a snoring sound. Jialuo sat opposite him and moved his chopsticks. He could see that Zuyi was a man who valued friendship and loyalty, and he felt sorry for his master. But, what can we do about it? In ancient times, people were poor in literature and rich in martial arts. Although there is no shortage of food in modern times, we still have to make money. Nowadays, we emphasize mental labor. What's the point of learning martial arts? It doesn't add extra points in exams, and it doesn't add extra money when looking for a job. Although you can win by being brave and aggressive, it will get you into trouble sooner or later. When Zuyi was young, it was okay to practice martial arts. It was nothing more than eating more. But when he got older, who would support him? Now Zuyi looks like he is 19 or 20. He probably started practicing martial arts when he was 5 or 6 years old. With his academic performance and his simple appearance, it is difficult for him to achieve anything. In the end, after graduating from junior high school, he could only work and sell his strength. Did you graduate from junior high school? Yes, most people of this age in our village have come out. How long have you been here? What did you do before? I have been here for more than half a year. I work on the construction site. I earn 150 yuan a day. I'm not a good student, but I'm strong, so I can only do this. Zuyi put down his chopsticks and felt even more inferior in front of Jialuo. He felt that Jialuo must be a college student, knowledgeable and learned much better than him. Some time ago, someone asked me to buy him cigarettes, but I refused. He hit me, and I fought back. He was admitted to the hospital, and I was driven away. Jialuo could almost imagine the hardships of Zuyi, a rural child who had practiced martial arts since childhood, and had a simple and timid personality. At the construction site, he only knew how to work hard. How could the old hands not bully him? At first, it was just a test, but after a few months, it definitely got worse. It was probably Zuyi's master who warned him not to hit him casually, so Zuyi had been holding back. He couldn't help but hit the other person, who was directly sent to the hospital and lost his job. For a hard-working man like Zuyi, it would be even more difficult to find a job without the help of his fellow villagers on the construction site. Zuyi looked so embarrassed that he probably hadn't found a job for more than half a month. Otherwise a man with his temperament would not want to work as a security guard in a bar. Zuyi, why did you come to me? Chapter 19. Keeping the Dao. I want to follow you. Zuyi also felt that his idea was a bit whimsical, but now he was really desperate. In the past 6 months in the big city, he had been working hard without any connections. He worked hard on the construction site, and his work experience was useless. Most of the money he earned was sent back home, so he didn't even have time to delay. Jialuo, you are the most powerful person I have ever seen, even more powerful than my master. I want to follow you. Zuyi has been learning martial arts for 13 years. In his mind, just like his master, people with high martial arts skills must also have good martial arts ethics, and are not bad people. Follow me. How old are you this year? Jialuo didn't expect that he could recruit a younger brother after fighting. In other words, why did he want Zuyi to follow him? He was so poor that he couldn't afford to pull others. 19. Zuyi put down his chopsticks and looked at Jialuo eagerly. He felt that Jialuo was good in martial arts and knowledge, and it would be right to follow such a powerful person. Zuyi, I'm here to find a job too. How can I take you with me when I'm living like this? Jialuo is not a person who likes to show off. He doesn't need or want any apprentices, so he can only politely refuse Zuyi's request. Brother Ji, if you want to find a job, I can recommend one to you. Zuyi suddenly changed the way he addressed Gluo. The boy who had just become an adult was still shy and embarrassed to say it so directly, but at this point, Gluo almost understood Zuyi's purpose. You mean, you have a good job, let me apply for it, and then take you with me? Gluo didn't see that Zuyi, a man with thick eyebrows and big eyes, also had such a little thought, but this is normal. It's the 31st century, who is really a fool? Yeah. Zuyi also felt that his idea was a little inappropriate, but in his current situation, there was really nothing he could do. Gluo looked at Zuyi's ashamed expression, but he didn't think there was anything wrong with him. Isn't this a normal deal? Introduce a good job, take him with you, if it works out, and if it doesn't, there's nothing else to do. It's all for life, and no one is sorry for anyone. If Gluo didn't have his own purpose, Gluo would be willing to accept Zuyi's conditions. A job that makes a young man so concerned must be very generous. It's a pity Gluo's mind is not on work now. Zuyi, does this job require hands-on work? Gluo saw that it was not easy for the young man, so he planned to refuse from the side. The two of them had only been in contact for a short while, and the only thing Zuyi liked about him was his high martial arts skills. It's not a bad reason to refuse from this aspect. Yes, but we don't really want to fight. It's not that we don't need to, it's just Zuyi was afraid that he would not answer well, so Gluo refused directly. The young man was so anxious that he scratched his head and ears and finally seemed to give up the entanglement and changed his tone of voice. Brother G, I'll tell you the truth. After I left the construction site, I found a cheap old community to live in. It's a little far from here, at the end of the old neighborhood. Although the place I live in is shabby, there is a very beautiful building next to it. There are many powerful companies in it. I went there once when I had an interview. The place where I interviewed was a very large gym. It took up 2 floors. It was full of rich people. I thought, I have practiced martial arts for more than 10 years, so I thought about giving it a try. Zuyi is not a person who can hide his thoughts. When he talked about it, his longing and disappointment were all shown. Gluo didn't pay attention to what he said at first, but as he listened to it, Gluo slowly frowned. Did you fail the interview? Yeah. You want me to try? Gluo put down his chopsticks and tapped his fingers on the table, thinking about the nodes in Zuyi's words. The overall situation sounded like nothing strange. It was nothing more than Zuyi applying for a job at a high-end gym and being rejected. Now that he saw Gluo, he felt that with Gluo's appearance and ability, he would definitely be able to apply for the job, and he could also help him. But Gluo heard something else. Brother G, I feel that if you go, you will definitely succeed. Zuyi's eyes were shining with excitement. He clenched his fists, nervous and excited. Brother G, you don't know, that gym is great. They said they were looking for a powerful master chef to teach traditional martial arts. I failed when I went there, but you can definitely do it. Traditional martial arts? A powerful master chef. Can you also lead people? Gluo pointed at himself and then at Zuyi. Does that mean that if I become a master chef, can I also pull you to become my coach? Yeah. The owner of the gym is obsessed with this area anyway. Traditional martial arts, fighting, sanda, in short, he likes anything that can be fought. When Zuyi saw that Gluo was interested, he immediately threw away his chopsticks and wrote and drew on the table. The boss probably wanted to become famous. When he was recruiting people, he wanted to have actual combat. Many people came and fought directly. Whoever won would be the master chef. The traditional martial arts were all given to the master chef, who got commissions, just like half of the boss. You failed. Gluo glanced at Zuyi up and down. He could see that this young man had practiced for 13 years and was much better than ordinary people. I don't have a gun, so I don't compete with guns. All my skills are on guns, so how can I beat others? That's true. Gluo now almost understood that Zuyi saw the posture of his fight just now and thought that he was also very good with bare hands, so he wanted Gluo to apply for the master chef position and then let him be a teacher. The master chef has already found someone for that gym, right? Can I still apply? Brother G, To be honest, the master chef is the one who shakes the gym. If he can't control the gym, he will leave. Zhu Yi was instilled with martial arts and martial ethics by his master since he was a child, and he had no idea about the ways of the world. So in his opinion, as long as Luo defeated the master chef, he would naturally be the new master chef, and it would only take a word to promote him. Interesting. What's the name of that gym? It's called Xiaodao. Xiaodao Gym. Zhu Yi has revealed all the details, and now it depends on whether Luo agrees or not. The young man stared at Luo nervously, as if there was light in his eyes. Xiaodao Gym. Luo did not answer Zhu Yi immediately. He took out his mobile phone, found the specific location, and then zoomed in on the map. Everything was just as Luo judged. The location of this gym was very close to the old neighborhood, less than 5 minutes walk from the address given by Su Qinghan. Luo felt like he really wanted to use a pillow when he was sleepy. He was just worrying about how to find a job close to Su Qinghan's home, and now it's here. Moreover, the master chef and the gym can prove that he has good martial arts skills. This way, even if he reveals some of his strength when he comes into contact with Su Qinghan, he can cover it up well. Chapter 20, Challenge. Zhu Yi, tell me about the current master chef in the gym. Luo had already made up his mind, but he did not show it too eagerly. The more important the matter was, the calmer he had to be. From this moment on, his contact with Zhu Yi was no longer simple. If everything went well, his goal of getting close to Su Qinghan would be achieved. Similarly, if Su Qinghan became suspicious of him in the future, by tracing back his experience, all of this would be evidence. On the day I went to apply for the job, there were quite a lot of people there. The boss was watching from the side, and we came here, like we were having a fight. The final winner was called Lao Shaoyuan. He was quite fierce. He had practiced Muay Thai, Taekwondo, and was also good at Jeet Kune Do and Chang Quan. At that time, I saw that Lao Shaoyuan was indeed experienced in actual combat. If I fought him, I probably wouldn't last more than 2 minutes. The one who fought him to the final was also okay. His name was Crossing Khan. He was not like me who was alone and had brothers. However, Crossing Khan practiced a very specific skill, which seemed to be called Thunderhand. In the last match, he fought Lao Shaoyuan very fiercely. Unfortunately, he was soft-hearted for a moment, and Lao Shaoyuan broke one of his arms and he lost. Zhu Yi roughly showed Luo how the two fought at that time. Lao Shaoyuan's final downward chop followed by an elbow strike was very fierce, and Crossing Khan couldn't block it at all, and his forearm was directly broken in the middle. That Lao Shaoyuan has no martial ethics. Luo could see that Zhu Yi hated Lao Shaoyuan very much. Young people always have the passion to uphold justice. Now that he met Luo, he wanted Luo to defeat Lao Shaoyuan, and then sit in the position of master chef. It can't be said that he has no martial ethics. Anyway, Crossing Khan showed mercy once, but Lao Shaoyuan was too cruel. Zhu Yi shook his head, knowing that this kind of competition is bound to hurt people, and ending the game with a cruel hand is not wrong, but it's not quite right. What expression did the boss have after Lao Shaoyuan won? Boss, what expression can he have? He was very happy. He opened a gym and found a master chef. Zhu Yi had not encountered many things, so he did not hear the meaning of Luo's words. Although Luo did not participate in those competitions, he roughly guessed the trick. Normally, whoever opens a gym has to recruit a master chef by applying for a job, so he must have found one in advance. So, if you look at the matter in a different way, the owner of Xiaodao Gym has already hooked up with Lao Shaoyuan, and the two of them are considered to be partners in opening a shop. After all, normally, the place that teaches traditional martial arts should be called a martial arts hall or a dojo, but he opened a gym, obviously just to create a gimmick to attract customers. This also explains why the owner of Xiaodao Gym, who held a martial arts competition to recruit, was sure that the master chef was good at business, not only gave him a commission, but also let him manage the traditional martial arts stall, which was obviously an agreement. The so-called recruitment is ultimately an advertisement. Lao Shaoyuan is very confident in himself, so he set up a ring to meet the heroes, and wanted to open up his reputation. As for Crossing Khan, he was probably also capable. He might not really lose to Lao Shaoyuan. It was just that Lao Shaoyuan was too scheming. He couldn't let anyone disrupt his plan, so he just took a ruthless approach and broke one of his arms while Crossing Kyan was holding back. In this way, not only did Crossing Kyan lose this time, but he couldn't come to challenge him again in the next few months. And once the news got out, it would be considered a victory. Not only would people who learned martial arts come here after hearing the news, but it would also make other people who wanted to challenge him hesitate. Well, Luo touched his chin. He didn't hate it in his heart. Since Lao Shaoyuan was so cruel, he didn't have to hesitate to attack him. Not only that, Luo also planned to treat him the way he treated him. He not only wanted to defeat Lao Shaoyuan, but also beat him into the hospital, preferably the kind that wouldn't heal for several months. In this way, no matter what the owner of Shaodao Fitness Center thought, he had to hire Luo, otherwise he wouldn't even have Master Chef for his martial arts business, and he would have to refund the tuition. In this world, the best cooperation is to give the other party a choice, but to eliminate all other options, so that he can only choose the only one. Zuyi, does Shaodao really allow challenges? He won't call the police, right? Brother G, they definitely allow it. At that time, Lao Shaoyuan also said that anyone is welcome to challenge, but injuries are at their own risk. Well, okay, that's good. Let's continue eating. Tell me about the boss and Lao Shaoyuan in detail, and I'll think about it. Luo was not worried that he could not beat Lao Shaoyuan. He was just worried that after the fight, someone would call the police and take him away. That would be troublesome. Luo's goal was ultimately with Sukinghan. As long as he could get into the Shaodao gym, it would be fine. It didn't matter how long he worked there, or how many he opened. What Luo needed most now was a suitable reason to move. Okay. When Zuyi heard Luo's words, he became excited. Since Luo said this, he must be planning to challenge the master. Once Luo succeeds, he can also go in and be a coach. How cool would that be? Haha, don't just talk, eat boss, give me 2 stir-fried dishes. At this time, Luo's attitude towards Zuyi also became enthusiastic. If he lost such a good shield, his conscience would hurt. Zuyi's face flushed with excitement. He felt that he had not made a mistake, so he was more open-hearted to Luo, and told Luo all the information he knew in one breath. Luo certainly would not fool a child. All his tricks and temptations were to understand Zuyi in the situation of Shaodao Fitness. After all, only in this way can Luo better achieve mutual benefit for both parties. This meal was very comfortable for both of them. After the meal, Luo gave up all the subsequent interviews and followed Zuyi to Shaodao Fitness. Along the way, Luo didn't say much, and he was listening most of the time. At this time, perhaps because he was already familiar with Luo, Zuyi also spoke more. The young man had been working outside for more than half a year and basically seldom communicated with others. Now that he met someone he could trust, his tone of voice was much lighter. The two walked slowly along the long street. Although Zuyi didn't go shopping often, he had lived here for a while and was familiar with the surroundings. Luo also planned to move in, so naturally the topic fell more on the layout. Taking this opportunity, Luo asked Zuyi's address. He didn't have much money, so the community he rented was older and cheaper. It was farther from Sukinghan's address, but it was only a 10-minute walk away. Luo mentioned the idea of moving, and Zuyi was very enthusiastic to help Luo find a house. Luo didn't refuse, but just made some requests and limited the scope of rent to Sukinghan's community. Chapter 21. Come first. Changlin City has developed rapidly in recent years. With the support of the country, it has jumped from a third-tier city to a second-tier city, and its ranking is still rising. Around the high-rise buildings under construction, traces of early planning are still clearly visible. Although the old block has the word old, it is actually only 30 years old. It's just that its location is very good. There are really many people eyeing this piece of cake. Countless people want to demolish it, so they put the word old on it. In contrast to the old block, the land around it is very expensive. After all, it is the city center with the most prosperous flow of people. All the newly built high-rise buildings are more than 30 stories high. When the sun shines, the glass exterior walls of these buildings are shining like an ocean. This light pollution. Although GLUO has changed many jobs before, he has never been in an office building. After all, he is a rookie who has not even attended college. The white collar life in the office building is beyond his reach even if he jumps. However, GLUO did not feel that he was superior in the office building. On the contrary, Zuyi, who grew up in the countryside and had only worked as a bricklayer at a construction site, felt very uneasy when he walked into such a clean and bright building. Hold your head and chest out. You will come to work every day in the future. Why are you so scared? GLUO patted Zuyi on the back, and the young man immediately straightened the joystick. The two walked into the elevator. GLUO asked the floor, pressed the elevator, and then stood to the side, watching Zuyi shrinking in the corner of the elevator, not knowing where to put his eyes. Just follow me later. Don't talk too much, and do whatever I tell you to do. Yes, Brother G, I will listen to you. Zuyi was very grateful to GLUO in his heart, and he wished he could become GLUO's younger brother directly. Unfortunately, GLUO rejected his request and just asked him to follow him to work. The elevator went up for more than 10 seconds and stopped steadily. GLUO and Zuyi followed a young girl out of the elevator and saw the sign of Shaodao Fitness Center. As soon as they went out, Shaodao Gym occupies the 9th and 10th floors of the building. Renting 2 floors in such a place, I don't know how much the boss's investment is and what kind of ambition he has. Hello, welcome to Shaodao Gym. There are 4 greeters at the door. GLUO and Zuyi are together, and the other girl is walking alone, so the 2 greeters greet the 2 parties respectively, and the service attitude is very good. Hello, is our Chuan Wu Lao Shaoyuan here? GLUO's handsome and resolute face is still very impressive. Zuyi stood behind him, looking at GLUO's very natural appearance, and couldn't help but envy him. Yes, what subject do you want to study? The receptionist thought GLUO was here to learn martial arts, so he handed over the course schedule. GLUO was about to say that he was here to find Lao Shaoyuan, but he didn't expect that someone on the other side got there first. Thank you, I don't want to study any courses. I'm here to find Lao Shaoyuan. Call him out. At this moment, the girl who got off the elevator at the same time as GLUO was standing in front of the service desk with a calm face. Her tone was not bad, but there was an irrefutable firmness. Miss, our Master Lao is giving a class. If you want to find him, please wait. How long will it take? The girl looked up at the clock and frowned slightly, as if she was in a hurry. Master Lao has just started teaching, and each class is 1.5 hours. You have to wait a little longer. The receptionist saw that the girl's attitude was wrong, so his attitude became better, but on the other side, the idle receptionist hurried inside, obviously to make a notification. I want to see him now. Tell him to come out. I'm sorry, do you think I'm kidding? The girl naturally noticed the receptionist's perfunctory attitude. She sneered, then stepped forward, raised her toes straight up, and then suddenly dropped down. Boom. The girl, who looked like a junior high school student, was not only thin, but her long legs did not show any strength. However, the girl's downward strike was as powerful as an axe, and the square reception table collapsed. The middle part collapsed directly, and the 2 sides also flew out. Tell Lao Shaoyuan to come out. I'm here to challenge the gym. The girl's tone of voice was not the slightest bit aggressive, but it was as if it was a matter of course to say that a debt should be paid. Hearing the noise outside, several coaches in the gym came out, looking very imposing. To be able to be a coach in such a large gym, they must be very good fitness enthusiasts. 5 or 6 men were over 1.8 meters tall, wearing half sleeves, and the lines of their muscles were sharp and angular, and they looked very powerful. However, facing the several strong men who surrounded her, the thin girl stood there without any fear, with the momentum of challenging everyone. The girl was about 15 or 16 years old, and her cheeks, which had just left their childishness, still had some baby fat. 2 shallow dimples would slightly sink on the left and right when she smiled. Coupled with the girl's very playful facial features and a height of just over 1.6 meters, she gave people an indescribable cuteness and warmth. The girl's eyelids were very thin, and there was a dark color flowing in her big eyes. There was no haze in her pupils, and she was not afraid when looking at people. Her hair was long, and the black hair passed over her shoulder blades. 2 white ribbons with snowflakes cut out tied the soft long hair into 2 symmetrical ponytails. Although the girl was very short, she stood straight, tilted her head slightly, and her eyes were shining with a serious light. The seriousness that comes with maturity forms a sharp contrast with her petite figure, giving the girl a temperament that is a bit stubborn, but more adorable, because of the contrast. "My name is Tang Ruoxi. Do you want to join us?" At this moment, facing the 5 or 6 strong men in front of her, the girl who is still in the 3rd grade of junior high school has a serious expression on her face, as if she is really ready to fight everyone alone. "Beauty, what's wrong with you? You are so angry. If you have something to say, please talk to me nicely, little sister. Which junior high school are you from? Do you want to apply for a card? I will give you a free trial for 1 month. Miss Tang, who has offended you? Did they come to your door directly? Tell me, uncle, I will give you justice." When the fitness coaches saw that she was just a junior high school student, their expressions relaxed. Not only were they not angry, but they felt that Tang Ruoxi was so cute. After all, a beautiful girl whose head just reached your chest, looking at you seriously, ready to fight you to the death. Everyone would feel a kind of contrast. Brother G, this little girl, Zhu Yi, is not one of those ignorant fitness coaches. He watched it from beginning to end. A little girl of 15 or 16 raised her leg and chopped down, directly splitting the solid wood service counter in half. Is this normal? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, Tang Ruoxi. Anyone with a little common sense knows that women's bones are thinner than men's. Although girls develop earlier and are fully developed at the age of 15 or 16, the gender difference cannot be overcome, no matter how they exercise. Zhu Yi is 19 years old this year. He has been practicing shooting for 13 years and has also been training his body for 13 years. He thinks that, even if he is barehanded, it is no difficulty to beat 5 or 6 gangsters. But if you ask him to repeat Tang Ruoxi's movements, Zhu Yi believes that he can never do it. No, it can't be said that he can't do it, but it is completely impossible to do it. The greater the force, the greater the recoil force. If you raise your legs and chop down solid wood furniture, can your bones bear it? It is likely that the table is fine and you broke your bones. It's okay, I know. Gluo stood aside, watching Tang Ruoxi's cute and serious posture, and had no intention of getting involved. As an evolver who has been dormant for 10 years, Gluo's visual ability, reaction ability, and judgment ability have long surpassed the limits of common sense. Some indescribable intuition told him that the girl in front of him was the embryo of an evolver, the initial appearance of a normal person going extraordinary. It's not that they have become evolvers, but that they are moving away from the concept of human beings, breaking free from the shackles of nature, and evolving into another kind of living being. Obviously, Tang Ruoxi has not awakened innate ability. She just has the foundation to become an evolver, and is on the way. 10 years ago, after Gluo awakened his original talent, he had tested himself more than once. At first, although he awakened superpowers, his physical abilities in all aspects were only twice that of ordinary people. Of course, at that time, Gluo was only 14 years old, and the ordinary people in his standard were the human physique of a 30-year-old man. Later, Gluo continued to grow, and when he was about 18 years old, he had reached 3 times the attributes of ordinary people. Now, after several comparisons and tests, Gluo has almost 4 times the physical ability of ordinary people. Note that it is almost. Gluo has a feeling that as long as he grows a little bit more and takes one step forward, he will reach a new realm, which is the so-called breakthrough. However, unfortunately, no matter how Gluo exercises or tries, his physical ability can't increase a bit, and he can't take the last step to the next stage. Similarly, the girl in front of Gluo, named Tang Ruoxi, was also stuck at the last step of her stage. If physical strength is estimated by numerical value, GLUO is about 19 now. 10 years ago, GLUO, who had awakened his innate ability, was 10, and Tang Ruoxi is 9 now. Both of them are only one step away, but Tang Ruoxi's step is particularly difficult, and she may not be able to reach it in her entire life. After all, awakening the innate ability is a true evolver. A 16-year-old girl has nearly twice the physical ability of a 30-year-old man. It's really terrifying. At this moment, GLUO is probably the one who understands the situation best among all the people present, so he can watch calmly and wait for the show to begin. Don't look at Tang Ruoxi's small arms and legs. Her bones, internal organs, skin, and flesh have already deviated from the concept of ordinary people. Otherwise, even if she started practicing since her mother's womb, it would be impossible for a girl in the 3rd grade of junior high school to split the solid wooden service counter with a downward chop without any damage. Now, call Lao Shaoyuan out. I'm here to challenge him. Tang Ruoxi's face was tense, without any shyness of a junior high school girl. Her serious and earnest expression, to be honest, was very cute. Challenging him? You don't know what life or death is. At this time, a young man in his 20s came out. He was wearing a martial arts uniform and was covered in sweat. It was obvious that he had just been doing physical exercise. It must be said that compared to the fitness coaches who trained their muscles to death, the young man's steps were very light. It was obvious that he had practiced Qigong. His fists were wrapped in cloth strips, and his joints were thick. He must have practiced a lot of external skills, and he had also dabbled in Muay Thai. Do you know Lao Shaoyuan? Tang Ruoxi came from a family of martial artists. She could naturally see that this young man was different from the people next to him. He was definitely a martial artist who practiced martial arts for many years. He is my master. Okay, you should have heard of the name Crossing Khan. He is my senior. He was not good at martial arts and was defeated by Lao Shaoyuan. He can lose, but the reputation of 36 moves of thunder hands cannot be lost, so I came here to ask for advice. When Tang Ruoxi mentioned Crossing Khan's name, there was no change on her face. She just stretched out her hand to unzip and take off the outer coat that was inconvenient to move, revealing the pure white t-shirt inside. Of course, you can also say that you are challenging him. The rules of the competition remain unchanged. Life and death are determined by fate, and injuries and disabilities are at your own risk. My master is teaching. If you want to challenge me, you have to pass me first. Okay. Tang Ruoxi didn't say any more nonsense. She stepped forward with her right foot, bowed her waist, and made a very strange starting posture. Tang Ruoxi, 36 moves of thunder hands. Zhang Zuai, free hand fighting. Tang Ruoxi saw through Zhang Zuai's level at a glance. She originally wanted to let Zhang Zuai attack first, and then she would quickly end the battle. But unfortunately, Zhang Zuai didn't see the gap between the two of them at all, and now he was posing, waiting for Tang Ruoxi to attack him. In Zhang Zuai's opinion, facing a 16-year-old girl, if he couldn't control the strength, it might be fatal. It would be better to focus on defense, dissolve all the attacks of the opponent, and then force the opponent to admit defeat. The idea is beautiful, but unfortunately, the reality is too ugly. Okay, as you wish. Tang Ruoxi didn't entangle anymore. Since Zhang Zuai was looking for death, she had no choice. If Zhang Zuai launched an attack, she could control the strength and ensure the injury. But now, she launched the attack. So in order to win in the death battle, she couldn't be too cautious. So the next moment, Tang Ruoxi's steps were like thunder, and like a flickering afterimage, she rushed towards Zhang Zuai. This little girl, she still held back. GLUO clearly saw the trajectory of Tang Ruoxi's actions, but except for him, everyone present only saw Tang Ruoxi's brief afterimage. Just like a flash, Tang Ruoxi crossed the nearly 10-meter distance between the two of them in just over a second, and gave Zhang Zuai a dignified push in front of his horrified eyes. Bang! The sound of Tang Ruoxi's palms hitting Zhang Zuai's chest was as short as a balloon exploding. Zhang Zuai, who was just over 1.8 meters tall and weighed 160 to 170 kilograms, flew out horizontally as if he was hit head-on by a speeding truck and hit the wall with a thud. Zhang Zuai was like a pancake being hit against the wall, almost in a spread out position, and then he fell straight to the ground and lost consciousness instantly. Chapter 23, Allah here. GLUO, is this Zhang Zuai dead? Zuyi felt his heart beating violently. It was not because he had no experience, but because Tang Ruoxi was too fierce. At that moment, he even thought of GLUO before. It's okay, he won't die. GLUO felt Zuyi's sight, but he didn't say anything. After all, Zuyi was right. He and Tang Ruoxi were indeed the same kind of people, but there was a big difference. In the silence, where you could hear a pin drop, Tang Ruoxi calmly put away her hands. She looked around, and no one dared to look at her. At this time, the receptionist had already hidden himself, and his eyes were full of fear when he looked at Tang Ruoxi. 5 or 6 sturdy fitness coaches also shut their mouths and refused to avoid it for the last bit of face. The customers who came after hearing the sound also avoided it, and the mood of watching the show before was gone. Call 120. He won't die, but he has 5 broken ribs, and his internal organs are slightly ruptured. Tang Ruoxi had already mastered the power. If she wanted to kill Zhang Zuai, the push she just made would have made his chest dent. However, she was here to seek justice, not to kill, so there was no need. What are you doing? Call an ambulance. An angry shout suddenly came from the back of the hall, breaking the deadly atmosphere. Someone immediately ran over and helped Zhang Zuai to the other side. The emergency call was quickly connected. The crowd parted, and a sturdy man in his early 30s walked out. He was not tall, and was even a little short, but he was muscular and his voice was unusually dull with every step. I'm Lao Shaoyuan. Tang Ruoxi, I came here to see you today. Tang Ruoxi did not repeat a reason. Lao Shaoyuan pursed his lips, but did not speak immediately. His eyes stayed on Tang Ruoxi for a while, and he turned around and started to walk back. It's affecting business here, come with me to the 2nd floor. Tang Ruoxi didn't say anything, but took her coat and followed Lao Shaoyuan fearlessly. At this time, the crowd who were watching the excitement obviously wanted to follow, but unfortunately they were blocked by several disciples beside Lao Shaoyuan. Sorry, to prevent accidental injuries, it's not easy for guests to pass through. Lao Shaoyuan's disciples are all traditional martial arts instructors. Although ordinary people want to squeeze through, they are all blocked. The crowd has no choice but to disperse. GLUO and Zuyi certainly don't have these concerns. Lao Shaoyuan's disciples want to stop the two of them, but GLUO pushed them casually, and the man fell to the ground like a rolling gourd. What do you want to do? Seeing that GLUO was not friendly, 4 or 5 traditional martial arts instructors immediately surrounded him, but GLUO was very arrogant and didn't even look at them. I'm here to find Lao Shaoyuan to compete for the position of Master. Get out of the way. Although GLUO was explaining to them, he didn't stop at all. He just walked forward. Several instructors wanted to stop him, but they stumbled, as if they had hit a wall. Get out of the way, if you don't want to go to the hospital lying down. GLUO didn't even look at these people, and took Zuyi upstairs. Lao Shaoyuan's disciples were also honest at this time. They didn't stop GLUO again, but followed him closely. Compared with the fitness gym on the 9th floor, the 10th floor was obviously the area for traditional martial arts. The entire floor was divided into many dojos, and the door plugs were marked with quite ancient names, all of which were dug out from lyrics and music. The cultural atmosphere was not bad. Fei Shuang Luo. GLUO remembered that this was a poem called Fei Shuang Luo Jianduan. Taking the first 3 words, it should be a dojo that teaches swords. Sure enough, the dojo was filled with various long swords from history, and even western rapiers and heavy swords. Don't talk about whether Lao Shaoyuan can teach, just this ambition is quite big. The sword granting gymnasium had not been built yet, and there were still many people decorating it. Lao Shaoyuan walked to the front and ordered everyone to leave. In this way, there were only a dozen people left in the empty gymnasium. Who are you? Lao Shaoyuan also saw GLUO and Zuyi at this time. He winked at the person next to him, indicating that he should drive them out, but his tone of inquiry was good. Me. My name is GLUO, and I'm here to challenge. I heard that if I beat you, I can become the master of the Taoist priest. I'm short of money recently, and I really want this job. Luo walked without stopping, looked at the person who was coming over, stretched out his hand, and pushed him out directly. And this time, Luo used force, and the man probably didn't react. Before he flew out he didn't feel injured or painful, but when he fell to the ground, he was already 7 or 8 meters away. With a single push, a person was sent flying 7 or 8 meters away, and the person was unharmed. In terms of the force required, perhaps many people could do it, but the force technique that could push a person away without any injury was really amazing. Lao Shaoyuan didn't expect that there would be so much trouble today. First Tang Ruoxi showed up, and now there's another tough guy named Luo. I'm afraid it won't end well. You're here to challenge Lao Shaoyuan too? It's first come, first served. Tang Ruoxi naturally had no intention of clashing with Luo, but she was here to challenge Lao Shaoyuan today, and she was here first, so she had to fight first. First come, first served? We should have come together, so why not play rock paper scissors? Whoever wins will challenge first. Luo naturally wouldn't let Tang Ruoxi come first. Lao Shaoyuan might not understand the situation now, but Luo saw it so clearly that Lao Shaoyuan was already on the chopping board. If Tang Ruoxi was allowed to fight Lao Shaoyuan first, Luo was sure that Lao Shaoyuan would go to the hospital lying down, and there would be no chance of fighting him at all. But in this case, how can he be the master who guards the way? Who wants to play rock paper scissors with you? I'll get out of the elevator first and call Lao Shaoyuan out first. Tang Ruoxi has been the monitor since kindergarten. She is the most particular about rules and order. Now Luoxiang cuts in line. Of course she won't allow it. At this time, Lao Shaoyuan on the other side, watching Luo and Tang Ruoxi vying to challenge him first. His face was so gloomy that ink was about to drip out. A little girl of 15 or 16, a young man who looked 20 years old. Two people are so unscrupulous in discussing where does he put him, who has practiced martial arts for more than 20 years. Is this also called a challenge? This is clearly treating him as a dish of fish meat, the two of them holding knives and arguing about who will cut the first knife. It's simply not a son. Lao Shaoyuan was so angry that his face turned blue. He was about to say that Luo and Tang Ruoxi should go together, but he didn't expect that a young man in a suit and leather shoes suddenly walked in. Master Lao, what's going on? Master Z, these two are here to challenge you. Challenge? Who injured Zhang Zuai? Zizan only heard that the martial arts instructor was severely injured, but he didn't expect that the people who came were two such young children. Chapter 24, Advice. I injured Zhang Zuai. I came here today just to challenge him. If Lao Shaoyuan loses, Yu Xiaodao Jim won't have to do Chuan Wu. Tang Ruoxi came here to challenge and cause trouble today. How could she be afraid of this? What she was afraid of was that the boss of Xiaodao would not come. My name is Luo. I'm different from Tang Ruoxi. I'm not here to tear down Xiaodao. I'm here to challenge Lao Shaoyuan and apply for the position of Master Chef of Chuan Wu. Luo's attitude was obviously much better. After all, he came to grab a position. Beating Lao Shaoyuan was the first step, but whether he could achieve the position of Master Chef, the boss of Xiaodao's idea, was the most important. My name is Zizin, the boss of Xiaodao. Zizin himself would naturally not like people who came to challenge him, but compared with Tang Ruoxi, Luo's attitude was indeed much better. In this comparison, Luo gave Zizin some good feelings. After all, Tang Ruoxi wanted to cripple Lao Shaoyuan and make their Xiaodao Chuan Wu go bankrupt, while Luo just wanted to work for him. The two were essentially different. Director Z, please give me more advice. Luo stretched out his hand and shook hands with Zizin very naturally. Zizin didn't feel anything, but Lao Shaoyuan was so angry that he was about to explode. This young man who didn't know how to live or die called Zizin Director Z as soon as he opened his mouth. Isn't this the same name as he called him? Please give me more advice. You want to be a master of traditional martial arts, right? You haven't even defeated me yet, but you are already so arrogant. Damn it. Zizin also felt that this young man named Gluo was a little overconfident, but as a businessman, he believed that harmony makes money, so he didn't say anything unpleasant, but just nodded. Master Lao, everything is up to you. No problem. Lao Shaoyuan was a little nervous before, but now he can't wait. He must teach these two people a lesson today. No one's life will be in trouble, but it is still easy to send them to the hospital for a month or two. You came first, so I'll fight you first, and leave him behind. Lao Shaoyuan didn't even want to look at Gluo anymore. He pointed at Tang Ruoxi, signaling her to get ready. Okay. Tang Ruoxi threw the coat in her hand aside, and started to fight. It was so neat and tidy. Hey. Wait a minute. Don't be in a hurry. Gluo was a smart man. How could he let Lao Shaoyuan mess around? He walked in front of Tang Ruoxi and blocked her directly. Boss Z, you are a businessman, and I will not play tricks. In the current situation, it is really not appropriate to do this. Although Tang Ruoxi and I are both here to challenge Lao Shaoyuan, our meanings are different. Tang Ruoxi is here to challenge, and I'm here to challenge and replace him. If Lao Shaoyuan loses to Tang Ruoxi, then what's the point of me challenging him again? It's stupid to fight a loser. The reputation of Xiao Dao has been ruined, and it will be difficult for you to do business again. But if I fight Lao Shaoyuan first, and I lose, he will continue to be his master chef and fight Tang Ruoxi to decide the outcome. As a loser, I have nothing to say, and will get out immediately, and never come again. But if I win, then if Lao Shaoyuan fights Tang Ruoxi again, the outcome won't be so serious. After all, he is not the master chef of Xiao Dao anymore. Even if he loses to a 16-year-old girl, it won't affect the reputation. Right? Gluo's words were addressed to Zizin, the boss. As a subordinate, Lao Shaoyuan could only listen out of respect, and could not interrupt. However, he was so angry when he heard these words. Gluo is really not a human being. He was poking at Lao Shaoyuan's spine in his words and deeds, and his arrangement was the same as that of the treacherous ministers in ancient times. Lao Shaoyuan hadn't fought yet, but he was sure that Lao Shaoyuan would lose. He didn't mention Lao Shaoyuan's defeat, or what happened to Lao Shaoyuan, but talked about the impact of Lao Shaoyuan's defeat on Xiao Dao's business. What's even more infuriating is that Gluo also changed the concept. He didn't ask anyone's opinion, and directly said that if Lao Shaoyuan lost to him, he would be the master chef of Xiao Dao. As a person who was kicked out, it didn't matter how Lao Shaoyuan was beaten by Tang Ruoxi. Listen, is this what a person says? He pokes people openly and covertly, and puts himself in the position of the winner in a cunning way. Although it sounds like he is thinking about the boss Zizin, he is actually confirming a certain rule. He challenges Lao Shaoyuan, and as long as he wins, Lao Shaoyuan will have to step down, and he will be the master of the traditional martial arts at Xiao Dao Fitness Center. Disgusting. Ugly face. Lao Shaoyuan's fists clenched so hard that they made a creaking sound. He now wishes he could smash Gluo's face with one punch. Too shameless. Too shameless. Does anyone know how much effort he put into the establishment of Xiao Dao Fitness Center? For the reputation of Xiao Dao, he organized a martial arts competition and risked his life to fight. But now, just anyone comes and wants to replace him with a few words. Director Z. Lao Shaoyuan's voice was full of anger. Zizin just said that he would leave everything to him, but now, Gluo's nonsense sounds really like that at first glance. If he insisted on his own way and still fought with Tang Ruoxi first, then even if Zizin didn't say it out loud, he would still have some opinions in his heart. It's okay, Master Lao, I'll leave it to you, I trust you. Zizin was smiling when he spoke, and it sounded like he had just handed everything over to Lao Shaoyuan. However, everyone was not a fool, and everyone could hear that what Zizin, the boss, actually meant was, Lao Shaoyuan, as the master chef of Xiao Dao, I believe in you. You won't ignore the safety of Xiao Dao's signboard for a little bit of face, right? No way, no way. I believe in you, don't let me down. Okay. Lao Shaoyuan certainly heard what his boss meant, so he turned his head, stared at Gluo with a murderous look, and nodded heavily. GLUO, since you think so, I will fight you first. No problem. GLUO was not annoyed by Lao Shaoyuan's attitude, but laughed even more happily. However, Tang Ruoxi, who was behind GLUO, frowned immediately when she heard that she was pulled to the back by GLUO. It's clearly first come first served. Why did you come first? Because I want to be the master of the guard. GLUO had a lot of bad intentions in his mind. How could a 16-year-old girl like Tang Ruoxi fight him? It was too easy to cut in on her team. Tang Ruoxi, you said before that you didn't come here to avenge your senior brother crossing Kyan, but to challenge for the reputation of Thunderhand. Although Lao Shaoyuan broke your senior brother's arm, the two of them were fighting for the position of the master of Xiaodao, so it's not a personal grudge, so you don't necessarily have to fight Lao Shaoyuan. The person you fight should be the master of Xiaodao, and it's best if it's the stronger one between me and Lao Shaoyuan. Only in this way, after you win, can you restore the reputation of Thunderhand, right? Chapter 25, Meeting Yuanting. GLUO spoke very slowly, giving Tang Ruoxi enough time to think, especially the last question, which made Tang Ruoxi remember the key point of this trip. Okay. The girl frowned and hesitated for a while, but finally nodded, acknowledging GLUO's words. That's it. Wait a minute. Lao Shaoyuan and I will decide the winner. Then you can come. GLUO moved his wrist, turned to look at Lao Shaoyuan on the other side, and the smile on his face was particularly annoying. Master Lao, do you want to move your body? Don't be defeated by me later and find excuses to say that you didn't stretch your muscles. Don't worry, I'm ready. You also know the rules of the competition. Life and death are determined by fate, and injuries and disabilities are at your own risk. Lao Shaoyuan clenched his fists, and his muscles were trembling. He couldn't wait to beat GLUO violently, at least break one of his legs, so that he could only go out sideways. By the way, Director Z, I have a small request. Go ahead. Zizan glanced at GLUO's bandaged left hand, thinking that he was going to make a request. Normally, when someone comes to challenge someone, he will definitely come in perfect condition. But this GLUO, as if he was seriously injured, had his left hand wrapped like a dumpling. Anyone who saw him would first think that this person was deliberately acting, wanting Lao Shaoyuan to be careless and launch a sneak attack at the critical moment. Haha. Director Z, don't get me wrong. The injury on my left hand is not that serious, of course. Although it's not serious, I don't need to use my left hand. A right hand is enough. GLUO waved his injured left hand, indicating that there was nothing wrong with this activity and his request had nothing to do with the injury. What I mean is to invite all the instructors of our traditional martial arts to come and watch the fight. After all, if I beat Master Lao, I will be a master. The instructors under me don't understand me and don't know how good I am. This will also affect my management of the team. Okay. Zizan looked at GLUO's confident expression and did not refute his words. Instead, he asked people to notify all the instructors of traditional martial arts to come and watch the fight. GLUO, do you have any other requests? No. GLUO's mood at this time was the most relaxed among all the people present. If he had to use his left hand to fight Lao Shaoyuan, he might as well die. Brother G, come on. Zui stood a little further back and looked more nervous than GLUO. GLUO reached out and patted his shoulder, then started to walk forward. Hoo ha. Lao Shaoyuan was an old man after all. Even though he was so angry that he saw stars at this time, when GLUO stood 10 meters in front of him, Lao Shaoyuan had calmed down again. You don't want to take off the bandage on your left hand? No. GLUO slowly withdrew the smile on his face, and his expression became formal. The two stood opposite each other, quietly waiting for all the spectators to arrive. The coaches are all here, we can start. As the boss, Zizan naturally became the referee. He had great confidence in Lao Shaoyuan, but his feelings towards GLUO were unpredictable. Lao Shaoyuan took a Muay Thai starting posture. His anger towards GLUO made him use the most ferocious boxing without hesitation. He wanted to hit GLUO's face so hard that this man would not even have teeth to eat. GLUO. In the empty silence, GLUO lowered his injured left hand, clenched his right fist in front of his chest, leaned forward slightly, and took the first step very slowly. But it was this step that changed everything. Like the morning sun tearing through the night, in the silent silence, GLUO's entire momentum began to change dramatically. It was as if a sleeping giant beast opened its eyes, and its mountain-like body rose from the ground, and the restrained wild momentum unfolded. The young man who was smiling just now had disappeared, and in his place was a deep and majestic evolver. This is. Zizin originally planned to watch a good show, but when he saw the momentum that GLUO really showed, he was shocked. In his early years, Zizin was very keen on traditional martial arts, especially those mysterious mysteries, which made him obsessed. But after studying for a few years, Zizin did not feel that he had changed much, which made him a little suspicious. Later, in a competition, the martial arts master he worshipped was beaten by Lao Shaoyuan, who came to challenge him without any ability to fight back, and his ugly appearance was exposed. After that day, Zizin was completely disappointed with traditional martial arts, and gradually got closer to Lao Shaoyuan. Lao Shaoyuan practices Muay Thai, Taekwondo, Jeet Kune Do and Changguan, etc. He focuses on actual combat, and has trained many disciples, but his dojo is not well known. After studying with Lao Shaoyuan for a while, Zizin clearly felt his own progress. After trying to compare with other friends, they were all surprised by his changes. At that time, Zizin had a brand new idea. He decided to invest and cooperate with Lao Shaoyuan to create a gym that can teach actual martial arts. Although it feels a bit strange, it is full of gimmicks. To this day, Zizin no longer believes in those things in traditional martial arts. He feels that he has found the truth from Lao Shaoyuan. What martial arts? Martial arts are all fixed routines and reaction abilities formed after years of training and accumulation. Whoever is stronger and whoever reacts faster can win. As for what form, intention, and momentum are all deceptive and mysterious things. How can there be an existence in this world that can make people terrified just by momentum? Are you kidding me? At this moment, Zizin deeply felt that his previous idea of sitting in the well and watching the world was completely shattered. After all, he was a man who had fought and had done ruthless things, but when he looked at GLUO at this moment, he felt an uncontrollable tremor in his heart, just like a tiger approaching slowly. It did not attack, nor did it show its intention to eat people, but it was just slowly moving forward, the accumulated power flowing between its muscles, and the monstrous murderous intent that could burst out at any time. Like an arrow on a full bow, piercing people's hearts in pain. Really, potential. At this moment, the same scene, imprinted in Tang Ruox's eyes, was an irresistible pressure. Tang Ruoxi felt that she was a genius in martial arts. She was only 16 years old this year, but even her father could not beat her, and those so-called brothers were even more arbitrarily needed by her. It can even be said that, since the age of 14, Tang Ruoxi has never seen anyone more powerful than her. Her pride is born in her bones. She never thinks that she is inferior to others. Even if she is a little worse, she can achieve it, as long as she works hard. However, at this moment, Tang Ruoxi truly felt a gap. GLUO, who had just been smiling and not at all serious, now made her feel an unparalleled and insurmountable despair. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.